last night covered that. This gentleman, Brian, he is with a Patriot group that's been raising funds for her attorney to help the mother and child. We're going to have him on. And then we're going to have on, who else, Logan? I want to talk to Dr. Lana more about the red light saunas. Red light saunas. Definitely want to talk a little bit about that because I got some new video on that. So Alex Newman, Hedieh Mirahmadi, Brian, and Dr. Lana. That's it, right, Logan? Am I missing anybody? And this is what we're going to talk about with Alex. Deep state fixer Epstein's ties to the Rothschilds and Trilateral Commission. Here's another one. Reviewing the Epstein files. Biggest scandal ever? Question mark. Part 1. Is it? Oh, we're going to get into it tonight. Who's behind this? Who does he think is behind this? And what is the goal? What's the objective? And why are we not going to be looking into prosecuting people or releasing the names of people who have really had some weird emails going back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein? Not just weird, I think disgusting. I mean, it seems like there's self-destruction going on here, but we'll get into that with Alex. How about this gal here? Carrie Prejean Bowler, former Miss California, on the Religious Liberty Commission. She wore a pin with the Palestinian flag, with the American flag, and then she got into it with some of the panelists and seemed, I guess, it looked like she took the whole panel with Ben Carson sitting there and the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, looked like she took it, hijacked it, and made it all about going after Zionist or Zionism. Does she even know the difference between Christian Zionism and Zionism? Because there is a difference between the two. And she made comments about the Zionist and biblical prophecy. Well, there are a lot of Zionists that don't believe in any religion, much less biblical prophecy, but there certainly are Christian Zionists that do. And then she talked about Islamophobia, but it gets worse. She put out a statement today, coming right off her own Twitter feed here. She put out a statement today, and I got to ask Hedieh about it. Do you remember when you said the words rapist Islamic regime, implying the entire religion of Islam is associated with terrorism? What? Well, it is. The whole religion of Islam is associated with terrorism. Has she not read the Quran or the Hadiths? Are all Muslims tied to terrorism? No. There are Muslims that don't have anything to do with Islam. They're just Muslims by birth. They don't practice. They're hypocrites, according to the followers of Islam. So no, we don't make blanket statements about Muslims. But when you talk about Islam, and you guys are implying the entire religion of Islam is associated with terrorism. Well, the religion of Islam is, whether it's cultural jihad or actual kinetic. I don't think this woman knows what she really is talking about here. And she goes on to talk about us Catholics, we Catholics, we don't believe in Zionism. I want to ask, are there not some Catholics out there that believe in the biblical, not the biblical, but the historical? That's the difference between Christian Zionism and Zionism. Zionists believe in the historical right of the Jews to the land. The Christian Zionist believes in the historical right and the biblical right, per Genesis 15. So does she not believe that there are Catholics that are Zionists, meaning they believe that the people, the Jews, the people of the land have a historical right to it? But apparently she's going to speak for all Catholics. You're going to see the videos. We played one clip today on radio and TV at 1 o'clock. We didn't play the other two. So I want to get to those tonight as well. So there's a lot to get to. But before we do, you guys remember, we're brought to you by you. So I'm going to go there, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. I'm back on Bella Grace. It showed up yesterday. I was without it for over 2 weeks. My hands were starting to crack again. And I have not been off Bella Grace like that since I started taking it in December of 2023. I had the worst indigestion. Acid reflux came back. It came back. And I had not had to take a Pepcid or anything since December of 2023. Because of the ice storm here, we didn't have mail delivery for 2 weeks. UPS, U.S. Postal Service, nothing for 2 weeks. Ran out of the Bella Grace right at the beginning of that. So I went 2 weeks or more without it. The pain, the inflammation, the joint pain, The cracking and bleeding hands started coming back. The acid reflux, massive acid reflux came back. I mean, someone said, well, you shouldn't be talking about all these things that they come back because you're just showing that Bella Grace is not curing you. It's suppressing the problem. No, that's not true. Someone, I guess, emailed that and one of the guys told me, no. One of the things that Bella Grace does is it deals with inflammation, takes away the inflammation. A lot of our problems are inflammation related. So it's not that Bella Grace is simply suppressing it. It's that the Bella Grace is reducing the inflammation because I'm taking something that's in that ingredient, the cat's claw, that's an anti-inflammatory, which is helping me. And when I get off of it, the inflammation comes back. No one's saying that you're going to take something and it's going to cure your problems for all of eternity. You still need to be having calcium. You still need to be having magnesium. There's all kinds of things you still need. You have to have glutathione in your body or you die. So it's not that it's a bad statement that somehow you're showing it's just suppressing instead of helping do the healing of the root cause. No, that's not the issue. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Take away my inflammation, which is the source of so many of my problems, as it is for many of us, right? So I'm glad I got it. I took 2 last night. I'm back on my Bella Grace. I hope you'll do the Bella Grace. I hope you'll do the Bella Trim. The Bella Melt. The Bella Melt, all natural to stimulate your body's natural GLP-1 to help you lose weight and curb your appetite. MelissaHouseBG.com. Melissa loves the skincare and so much more. Of course, there's the Newman with the glutathione. Swish with it, detox your cells. And there's the Gatatana, which is a phytoplankton that one scoops 90 billion plant cells, the equivalent thereof. And of course, there's the Worldview Talk for the satellite phones, the solar generators, the beanies and blankets that knock down the EMF. There's the Worldview Healthcare to get your medical kits so you have plenty of antibiotics and other medicines and supplements on hand should something happen or you just want to take the supplements. But I certainly would urge you to have your medical kits in case there's a disruption of any kind of essential services and we don't have access to antibiotics and you would need them in case of an emergency. So be ready to go with all these things. You're helping yourself and us. We're selling a lot of the water purifiers at worldviewwater.net to take out the arsenic and the fluoride and all those other things that are in the water. That's the water I drink after this filter has done its job. It's the water I give Dolly. It's the water I shower with. I have one for my shower. I have one for my kitchen sink. So it's all there. Worldviewwater.net. You're supporting us by going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. So thank you for your support. Let's get going. Joining me now is Alex Newman with the libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. Here, look at this article over there. Deep State Fixer, Epstein's ties to Rothschilds and Trilateral Commission exposed. That was February 9th. February 10th, reviewing the Epstein files, biggest scandal ever, part 1. Let's get into it. Alex, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
All right. A lot of people are familiar with the Rothschilds. And then, of course, a lot of folks use the name of the Rothschilds and their support of Zionism, a Jewish state, to then tie all of this up to Epstein and then to push a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric I'm hearing. First of all, what do you make of that people are doing that?
Well, I've known about this controversy for a very long time. And in fact, some of the most faithful believing Jews that I know who truly embrace the Torah, who truly do their best to follow God as outlined in the Old Testament, the prophets, etc. They know about the Rothschilds and they loathe the Rothschilds and they speak out against the Rothschilds. And they say that the Rothschilds are not real representatives of Judaism. And in fact, that should be obvious if you are embracing the kinds of things that the Rothschilds embrace. embrace, how could you also claim to embrace, for example, the Mosaic Law, the Ten Commandments that were given by God to Moses on Mount Sinai? And so I think it's really important to make that distinction. Even many faithful Jews and even many Jewish Zionists, hardcore Jewish Zionists, absolutely reject the Rothschilds and do not regard them as legitimate representatives of their people group, their identity, their religion, their ethnicity. I think the same is true with George Soros. You look at George Soros, and the guy runs around saying he doesn't believe in God. He runs around saying he thinks he is God. He feels like God. That does not sound like a faithful Jew to me. So I think those are important to mention. But, the Rothschilds are very, very significant in the history of the world. Not very well known to your average person. But even their kind of apologists, right? Niall Ferguson is a really good example. This guy's like a court historian if there ever was one, right? He's like a bootlicker for the establishment. He did a book on the Rothschilds called Rothschild, the World's Banker. And in there, he says, kind of just matter-of-factly, that the Rothschilds decided the outcome of the Napoleonic Wars by putting their financial weight behind the British government. Now, imagine the power of a family that can decide the outcome of a war between the two most powerful governments on the face of the planet at that time. That's the level of power we're dealing with here. And so now that we're looking through these Epstein emails, and there are millions of them, nobody has had time to go through them all, including AI, by the way. But what we do see very clearly is the relationship between the Rothschild dynasty and Jeffrey Epstein. In 2015, in fact, we have an email from the Rothschilds saying, it's a contractual email, saying that the Rothschild group intends to pay him $25 million for the work, W with a capital W. And exactly what the work is not quite specified, although from the other emails, I think we can get some sense of that. He sends an email to Peter Thiel saying, I represent the Rothschilds. Peter Thiel, of course, being the founder of Palantir, the PayPal mafia, active homosexual, talks openly about injecting himself with children's blood to live forever. I mean, these are some weird people, Brannon. But it's obviously totally inappropriate to use these examples to promote anti-Semitism, but it's also totally inappropriate to not talk about these things because somebody is scared that they might be called an anti-Semite for pointing out the facts that are perfectly documented in plain English. And I'll say one more thing on this, Brandon, since you asked. There's a very interesting email exchange between Epstein and Ariane de Rothschild. It talks about a university professor who was teaching that the Epsteins and the Rothschilds and the Gutmans were financing Adolf Hitler. And Ariane de Rothschild responds, and Epstein points out, yeah, but this is not a conspiracy theory. This is actually true. And it's true. And he goes through and he says, the Rothschilds and the Epsteins were funding this thing that was funding Hitler. And so it's a very interesting email exchange. I don't know what it all means yet, but I do know that some of these Rothschilds who are emailing with Jeffrey Epstein ought to be brought in for questioning, put under oath, under penalty of perjury, to find out exactly the nature of this relationship, what kind of work was Epstein doing for them, and why was he trafficking underage children for sex? Why was he bringing in Middle Eastern oil sheiks and sultans to get big contracts with Western governments? I mean, these are questions that have to be answered, Brandon. I don't know the answer to them, but we need to get answers on this. And frankly, I think knowing what we know already, we need people in handcuffs.
So we don't take Karl Marx, a self-hating Jew, and use him to say he speaks for all Jews. George Soros, we don't say he speaks for all Jews. Sigmund Freud, we don't say he speaks for all Jews. So, I mean, as Aaron Navarco pointed out today, do we take any of a number of Jews out of history and then say they represent all Jews on the planet any more than we take, I don't know, Jimmy Swaggart or Jim Baker or any of these other people and say, well, they therefore represent all of Christianity and all Christians and all pastors. I mean, we don't say Judas represents all Jews who portrayed Jesus. Yet, of course, we have a Jewish Messiah. All of the writers of the Bible are Jewish except for Luke. But, the point I'm trying to make again is it comes down to the individual and what they're doing. You can't label a whole people based on one or two people or a collection of people, any more than you can blame you and I, Alex, because we're Americans, that you and I had anything to do with slavery. I didn't own slaves. My parents didn't own slaves. My grandparents didn't own slaves. My great-grandparents didn't own slaves. Why should I be blamed for what others did and have to pay reparations. There's consistency here of individual responsibility. And of course, anyone that wants to take these people and therefore say all Christians are this or all Jews are that is clearly not using facts, but in fact, what they're doing is lying. And the Bible speaks to that as well, lying. And slander and defamation and bearing false witness. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And it's a very good point, Brandon. And I have seen people trying to make this argument. Nick Fuentes, for example, said about the only interesting... I'm starting to think more and more the guy must be a paid operative. He says the only interesting thing out of the Epstein files is that we now have more proof that Jews run the world. That's not what I got out of the Epstein files or even remotely close to it. I think there's a lot of very interesting and useful information in there. In the book of Revelation, Jesus actually warns of those who say they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. And I think when we're dealing with people like Epstein, when we're dealing with some of these members of the Rothschild dynasty, that's really what comes to mind, right? They might say they are Jews, and yet they completely reject everything that God revealed to the Jewish people in the Torah, everything that God gave to Moses, everything that God gave to the prophets, everything that God gave to David and to Daniel. And so I think it's very important for people not to fall for that trap any more than, we would believe like, okay, some Catholic priests raped children, therefore all Catholics are child rapists, right? It's an obvious fault in logic that anybody trained in the most basic rudimentary levels of logic would see right away.
Just like when the Lord judges the Gentile nations, he separates the sheep from the goats. The goats try to claim they're of the Lord. He says, depart from me, I never knew you, you worker of lawlessness, you worker of iniquity. But they're like, wait a minute, Lord, but didn't we do this? Did we do that in your name and cast out demons and this and that? He says, depart from me, I never knew you. You claim to be my follower, but you were not. Off to hell you go. So we can use this same standard consistently, whether we're talking about Gentiles or Jews. And again, there are good Gentiles and there are bad Gentiles. There are good Jews, there are bad Jews. This is just the nature of man, the fallen nature of man, sinful man. Now,
and Brandon, I want to add before we go to the next thing, for those tempted to fall into the anti-Jew stuff, just do me a big favor. Go back and read Romans chapter 11. Just read it and reread it and reread it. God has a special plan for the Jews. His promises to the Jews have not been overturned in any way whatsoever. God is going to use them. He has been using them. And, don't fall for the satanic lie that all Jews are evil and that there's some sort of Jew conspiracy to enslave humanity. It's a satanic conspiracy, and it very much includes people who identify as Jews and people who identify as Christians and plenty of other things. So we must not fall for that. I know there are more and more voices making those arguments, but real Christians who read the Word of God should be able to see right through that.
Absolutely. Well said, Alex. All right, so let's talk about the Trilateral Commission, the Rothschilds, Davos, all of these groups, how they're connected, and is this the biggest scandal ever?
I think it is, Brandon. I've spent the last couple of days trying to figure out when was there a bigger scandal. People think of Watergate. Watergate was nothing. We're talking about a child rapist, a child sex trafficker.
Which, by the way, can I just stop you right there? They're telling us at the DOJ that nobody was, I guess, trafficked, but yet wasn't this guy charged with that when he got his...
He was convicted! Todd Blanche needs to resign immediately. I mean, he's either completely clueless or he's a liar. I'm sorry. I like a lot of the folks working in the Trump administration and at DOJ, but those comments were so asinine. It's hard to believe somebody would make them. But no, this is such a big scandal, Brandon. I mean, you and I have talked about this for years. I mean, we kind of knew that this is how the world really worked, but now we've got the smoking gun evidence. There's 859 references to pizza in these emails. Go read the references to pizza and tell me whether they're really talking about pizza, okay? Since when do you torture pizza? Something is really, really wrong here. And frankly, I think all these people, I mean, if your name is in there in connection with raping children, with pizza, with shady business deals, with blackmail operations, with intelligence or counterintelligence, nefarious efforts against the United States of America, corrupt business, you need to be brought in for questioning at the very least under oath, so that people can be held responsible for at least perjury. But we have evidence in here, Brandon, it seems to me, that the highest levels of power, government, business, culture, everything, are not just compromised, but are some of the most sadistic criminals, or involved in some of the most sadistic crimes that the mind could even imagine. I mean, some of the stuff is so shameful. It reminds me of Ephesians chapter 5, verse 12. You know, some of it's so bad, so shameful, you can't even talk about it because it's so wicked. And, you know, the fact that this is all out in the open, I think, is an earth-shattering development. And assuming the evildoers don't get their way, this is going to be talked about for a very long time to come.
Do you believe there were children that were killed? Because I read where some kids were killed and maybe buried. Do we know where they were buried? Is our government going to go look and see if they can dig up and exhume bodies and figure out how they were killed?
That's one of the allegations in the emails on the Zorro Ranch, Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. There is an allegation in one of the emails that there were two girls, yes, we're talking about children, who were killed during sexual activities that cannot be described here, and then buried on the ranch. And so, yeah, it's a big ranch, but when we have dead children, they need to be investigated. I mean, every resource at the disposal of our law enforcement agencies. I'm talking local, state, and federal. Everything not needed to prevent murder and burglary and rape and things like this should be going into these types of cases. State attorneys general should be investigating. DOJ should be investigating. Local sheriff's departments, district attorneys, everybody with any kind of nexus to the Epstein files. And by the way, this guy was international. He was all over the country. Everybody ought to be devoting some of their law enforcement resources, some of their investigative resources to figuring out what happened here and bringing criminal charges against the people involved.
So who was he working for? Was he working for multiple groups, multiple agencies? Was he kind of just hey, I'm a free will contractor, you need information on people? I saw a picture the other day. He was supposedly standing in a room talking to someone. The guy said, I don't know where he is, but there are boxes in the back that say CIA on this. Was he working for the CIA? Was he working for other governments? Was he kind of a honeypot orchestrator for hire?
It's a very good question, and I don't think we know the answer to that yet. I mean, we know he was working for the Rothschilds. To me, there's no question that the highest levels of the U.S. government knew about this guy. The NSA has access to all of our phone calls, all of our emails, all of our text messages. The guy was using Gmail for crying out loud. I mean, we all know the NSA had all of these files and has had them all along. I've talked to whistleblowers from the NSA who say, yes, they have everything. They have access to everything. So my guess is there was some nexus with U.S. intelligence. There's good reason to believe that he was involved with MI6. There's good reason to believe that he was involved at least with certain elements of the Mossad. There's good reason to believe that he might have been involved with Russian intelligence. So I think the Rothschild link is probably the most significant because I think when you're talking about the deep state behind the deep state, right? I look at the intelligence agencies as kind of like operational arms of the deep state. I don't, contrary to what some conservative commentators would have you believe, I don't think the CIA and the MI6 and the KGB and the Mossad really run the world. They just kind of do some of the dirty work for the deep state. And it looks to me like Epstein was a level above even that. Obviously, a lot of intelligence agencies must have known what was going on. Again, they have billions of dollars at their disposal to listen to grandma's phone calls. The idea that they didn't know that Epstein was engaged in some of these things is utterly preposterous. Look at the kind of people who are showing up on his island. Bill Clinton, right? Clearly, the intelligence agencies knew. So I don't think Epstein was taking orders from any particular intelligence agency, but he was certainly working with some of them, certainly passing on information, and I'm sure getting information.
Why, if nothing's wrong here, why are people resigning? If nothing's wrong here, why did we reportedly, we read that reportedly the prince and the king have kicked Andrew out of the royal palace that he was living in? Why are these people resigning from jobs? If nothing is to see here, if nothing went on that's wrong, why are people being ostracized and choosing to resign and even changing the name of organizations and centers that bore their name? Did we just see that with Mitch, the former Senate leader, Mitch, what's his face?
Mitch McConnell? No,
not Mitch McConnell. From way on back, the senator, he negotiated with Ireland and all kinds of guys way back there. I'll look his name up. It'll come to me in a second. Mm-hmm. But apparently he had a organization with his name on it. They're going to change the name of the organization and all of this stuff. If there's nothing here that's so bad, why are these people being treated this way? Which tells you there must be something here, right?
There's not just something here. There is mountains and mountains of some of the most damning evidence I've ever seen here. And resigning is nothing. I think we need to see a lot of people in handcuffs. Yes, we are seeing a lot of resignations. I think we're going to see a lot more. This may still bring down the regime of Keir Starmer, the communist Fabian leader of the United Kingdom, the far left prime minister there. He's now trying, I didn't know Mandelson was involved with Epstein. I just believed him. And, okay, yeah, right. There's a lot of these people who must not just resign, but must be held accountable, must be brought to justice, must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. If we don't see that, we've got an even bigger problem than we realized, right? There is so much here to go on. And another thing that's really troubling, Brannon, one reason we're not seeing more resignations is because the Department of Justice, very much in violation of the law that was passed ordering them to release all of this, has redacted the names of a lot of the people who were corresponding with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, they were allowed to redact names of innocent victims. Don't tell me that people sending torture videos to Jeffrey Epstein were innocent victims. These people were clearly involved. We want their names, and we want them now. Again, the law does not allow them to redact the name of potential perpetrators, only victims. To try to claim that some of these people whose name, I did a 30-minute episode of my show Behind the Deep State, dropped yesterday on this, and over again, from redacted to Jeffrey Epstein, from Jeffrey Epstein to redacted, these are not victims. Again, these are people who were working with Epstein. These are people who were engaged in sadistic crimes against children, against girls, against women. And we need to know who these people are, not so they can resign, so that they can be prosecuted and thrown in jail.
Here's the main wire. Maine's embattled George Mitchell, reeling from Epstein files, quits his own institute, May 6, 2026. Comes in the wake of his name appearing in documents related or released by the U.S. Department of Justice as part of the Epstein files. The institute, which announced its resignation on its website, is also considering stripping Mitchell's name from the organization. He has repeatedly denied claims he participated in any of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sexual trafficking. Until his resignation, Mitchell had served as the honorary chair of the organization. Okay, if you did nothing wrong, why are people resigning? I mean, if someone said, hey, you walked into a ballroom and when you walked into this ballroom of 200 people for a reception, Jeffrey Epstein was in the room and there's a picture of him and you're in the back of the picture, my response would be, at the time, I didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein was, and I didn't do anything wrong. So I didn't. There's a lot of people in that room I didn't know who they were. So you think I'm going to resign over that? No. I mean, right? Wouldn't people say that? I mean, this guy, I'm sure, walked into a lot of conference rooms and other places where people had no idea who he even was, particularly early on, and had nothing to do with what he was up to, right? I mean, isn't that how some of this works?
Yep. And that's a very good point. But again, I think we are going to see not just resignations, but we need to see prosecutions here. I think part of the reason some of these people are resigning is because they know how deep the rabbit hole goes. They know that, and there's more to come. Right? There are still a lot of documents that the DOJ has not released yet. I suspect we're just at the beginning of this. And Brannon, nobody has had time to examine 3 million documents, right?
No.
Nobody.
What about
there is
Steve
still
Bannon?
so much
What's
more
that all
buried in
about?
there. I don't know. We saw the video that was released of Steve Bannon interviewing Jeffrey Epstein. A rather friendly interview, actually, if you look at it. There are discussions now about whether Bannon was planning to produce a documentary kind of exonerating Epstein. I don't know what the facts of that case are. I've been on Bannon's show. He seems like a nice enough guy. But, I think everybody who was involved with Epstein needs to be looked at. And, if it was an innocent relationship, they should be able to say so under oath, right? Bill Gates, he should be able to say, this is all that it was. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, with his hand on a Bible. And if he's lying, if we can find evidence of perjury, throw them all in jail. But I think all of these people who were involved with Epstein in any significant way, I mean, if you sent the guy an email and sent him an article one time, all right, maybe that's not a huge deal. But if you were involved with him in any way, personal, financial, legal, We need an explanation of what was going on. And if there's evidence of criminal activity, it needs to be prosecuted.
Well, we were told by Pam Bondi there were thousands of videos. Can we play that again, Logan? Didn't she say there were thousands of videos and child blank? I don't want to say the word so that our algorithms mess everything up, but didn't she say that?
I remember
hearing that. In front of the White House. In front of the White House, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden there's nothing. There were thousands of videos. And it involved illegal activity because last time I checked, child blank is illegal.
Yep.
No.
And my guess is there are still people at the highest levels working to protect as many folks as they can. Why else would you redact all these names?
Here it is. Go ahead, Logan.
The Epstein files are going to get released?
We hope soon. FBI's been.
Okay.
So,
any dates?
No, you know what it is? There are tons and thousands of videos.
Yeah.
And it's all with little kids. So they have to go through every one.
So, look, James O'Keefe.
Okay. And then there's another one of her saying the same thing in front of the White House, Logan. Out on the street there in front of the green tents. Is this debacle being done by, is Todd Blanche at the assistant DA, is he not a former Democrat? You know, is this being done to sabotage President Trump's administration, to damage him? I mean, it's come out that again and again and again, he's the one that called the police. He is the one that called them supposedly, according to some of these files I've read, thanked them for investigating him, that everybody's known for a long time what he's up to. Thank you for investigating him. So if you really think they had something on Donald Trump, don't you think they would have already used it if they had something on him? Number one. So why is this being used to make his administration look like they're the ones covering up for the rich and the powerful? Some are saying, well, because Donald Trump's friends are in on this. I don't think Donald Trump has the personality of someone that is willing to sacrifice his reputation for someone else. I think if we know anything about Donald Trump is going to protect Donald Trump. Right? And if he's got some people that should be exposed that are friends of his, well, I think he's going to let them get exposed before he damages his brand. I mean, don't we know that about Donald Trump? So why is this being handled this way by the DOJ unless it's being done on deliberately to hurt MAGA?
I think that's what's happening, Brandon. In fact, I've spoken to several people who know a lot of things, and I was told that the president was told that, oh, if those come out, you know, there's a lot of allegations about you, and you're going to have to explain all this, and, you know, you don't want all that confusion. And in fact, if there was anything in there implicating Trump in any way, it would have been on, you and I both know, would have been on the front page of every newspaper on planet Earth for days on end. It would have been the lead story on every one of the network TV stations. It would have been absolutely plastered everywhere. There are some people in there who I think need to be scrutinized a little bit more closely. Howard Lutnick, you know, Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor, big-time Democrat donor, involved in a company that was creating basically the prison planet, the CO2 monitoring and tracking stuff. Helped unveil these stable coins and Tether and all these crypto schemes. Now he's serving as Commerce Secretary. I would like to know what the nature of that relationship was.
Well, wasn't he has literally bought a house next door to him for a gazillion years, right? Was it 20 years or something? He was next door neighbor to this guy? Is that right?
Yep. And he says, you know, nothing happened. They went over, had dinner. Jeffrey Epstein said something weird about a massage. And okay, so, you know, if that was it, maybe that was it. I don't know. But I think Lutnick is one of the people I have had my eye on from the very beginning of the administration as somebody who needs to be scrutinized a little more closely. You know, again, history of donating to Democrats, involved in some business activities that are quite critical to the global system they're trying to impose on us. So I'd like to know more about the nature of Lutnick's relationship with Epstein. But I don't think Trump in any way is implicated here, contrary to what the Democrats were hoping for. Because again, if there was anything there, it would have been everywhere already. That's right.
Final minutes. Massey. You think he's going to go onto the floor of the House where he has legal protection and start naming names? Should he?
He's already started. He's already started revealing some of the stuff that's in there, and I, for one, am glad to see it. Right? I know Trump is really mad at Massey. Massey's got a great record as a constitutionalist when it comes to voting, and he's actually one of the ones who forced the release of the Epstein files. So again, I know Trump is mad at him. I know a lot of MAGA is mad at him. I've interviewed him before. I think he's a nice enough guy, but I'm grateful that he is revealing some of this stuff. I hope we get a whole lot more of that in the months to come.
Have you read this?
I have not, but I keep hearing good things about it, so I plan to.
The Invisible Coup. I have read it. I have marked it up. And I said to my wife last night, after spending a couple hours reading more of it and marking it up, between Mexico, that is deliberately infiltrating our country with their consulates and sending a million textbooks a year into the nation to educate Hispanic children into Marxism, and America's bad, and we stole the land. He talks about that. Between Mexico's relationship with China, Mexico undermining us, the CCP here working and undermining us, having what will be by 2030 over what's reported to be 1 million babies that will now be able to vote who are born in the U.S., who come here, they get surrogate parents if necessary. The babies are born, taken back to China and raised, and then can be brought back 1 million plus by 2030 who can vote for the CCP in America. By the time you add in the Muslim Brotherhood, and he has a whole chapter on them, does an excellent job because I know a lot about the Muslim Brotherhood. And my wife said, how do you know what he's saying is true? I said, well, first of all, he footnotes it. But what he wrote about the Muslim Brotherhood was so accurate, which I know from my years and decades of studying this, that if he started getting stuff wrong in the Muslim Brotherhood, I would know it. And he didn't, which tells me he does his homework and the other stuff I'm reading. Plus, he has a lot of footnotes and documentation. But between Mexico's relationship to China, China's infiltration of America, the Muslim Brotherhood's infiltration into America, and then we add in Russia and what they're doing. When we get done, and the Marxist groups that have penetrated the Catholic organizations, many of these progressive Marxists that are from Latin America, that some of them tied to terrorist groups, have found their way to America and are running organizations all over this country from one end to another. When I got done reading this book, I said to my wife last night, we're done. We're toast if Donald Trump doesn't take the next 3 years, sign the Insurrection Act if necessary, go through this book, get the help of you, Trevor Loudon, other people that know who these community organizers are, these Marxist tied, these CCP tied, the Gordon Changs who know where all this, if he doesn't bring all these people in and start building a list and then going through who they are, their organizations, their websites, their bank accounts, round them up and get them out of the country, seize their accounts, we are done. We're done. That's it. They have all the architecture in place when they take power to keep this coup d'etat going, this color revolution, this insurrection, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's more than enough between you, me, Trevor, Gordon, Peter Schweitzer, and the others that know all this stuff to figure out who these groups are down to the ground level, down to the organizational level. And if you remove them because of their illegal behavior and activities and subversion, they will have no leaders. That in themselves would cause a lot of this to go away because they would not have the trained leaders. Many of them who trained in Latin America and then started penetrating here, including into the unions. If Donald Trump doesn't get serious about this, I'm sorry to say, this tells me they have infiltrated far more than even those of us who are doing this on a daily basis for decades know.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, Brannon. I've been sounding the alarm about the communist Latin American infiltration of our country going back my entire career in journalism. One of my first really big investigative pieces was at the New American, Resurgent Communism in Latin America. And it was very obvious what was happening. There was a communist network in Latin America backed by Russia, backed by China, using oil money from Hugo Chavez and later Nicolas Maduro, that were sending huge numbers of agents and money and highly trained operatives, special forces, terrorists, saboteurs into our country with plans for a revolution. I lived in Mexico more time than I've lived in anywhere else in the world. And I think I've shared with you some of what it was like growing up there. The hatred of Americans is beyond what any normal American can understand. They go back to the American invasion of Mexico, and the gringos came and they killed our niños héroes and they massacred our poor, they stole our land. This is the norm. This is mainstream Mexican understanding of history and geopolitics and relations with the United States. It's a hatred that is instilled in them from a young age. And I still remember first grade, second grade, my teachers would identify me as an American, and suddenly all the class would hate me just because I was American. It's very real. So I look forward to reading Peter's book. I know Trump is working with some of the good folks over at the Government Accountability Institute. And you're right, he needs to do much more of that.
Well, he says the
3 years
cartels
to clean this up.
He says that it's very likely the cartels are helping to fund some of these groups.
Of course. And again,
because
Brandon,
they want open borders. They want open borders for drugs, and they want open borders for sex trafficking.
Yep. Well, and the cartels are really extensions of the communist and terrorist movement there. Like if you go to the Foro de Sao Paulo, it was founded in 1990 by Castro, Lula, the FARC, which is essentially a cartel. I mean, it's a Marxist narco-terror group turned government. But the drug trafficking was always to raise money for the revolution. Yes, some of these guys live in big houses and they have golden AK-47s, but that's just a fringe benefit. The real reason that they're doing the drug trafficking is because they need the money to do this operation, which is first take the Western Hemisphere and then the world.
Okay, closing question. And I want to ask this of Patrick Wood as well on technocracy and transhumanism. When you read all of these networks that I talked about that are here to bring down the country and who are tied to terrorist groups and violent groups and MS-13 and Tren de Aragua and all these groups that you know about, are the Marxists going to be allowed to destroy the country, to destroy private property, to target Christians and conservatives? Or are they going to be allowed to do just so much that the majority of Americans will scream, stop, stop them, stop them, stop them. And then in rides the transhumanist, the globalist, the technocrats to save the day. And people are willing to surrender the biometrics, the digital IDs, whatever it takes. Is this Hegelian dialectic going to be used to get us to surrender, to go back to normalcy? Or will people like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, other guys lose control themselves and be overtaken because they can't overcome this system?
I think
the
it'll be
system being
similar
the
to
Marxist.
Yeah, I think it'll be similar to what we've seen in other communist revolutions, right? The communism, people mistake it as like an ideology or some kind of economic system. It's really not. It's a cover story. It's a smoke screen to enlist useful idiots, idealistic morons into the revolution. And the purpose of the revolution is to destroy the previous thing. So in Russia, of course, it destroyed the Tsarist system and the Orthodox Church. The purpose is really to destroy America. Now, do the higher level people promoting this, like, Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, it's a fact, was funded by some of the biggest fat cats on Wall Street. Is that because the fat cats on Wall Street were Marxist? Of course not, right? I mean, they would be the first ones to be hung and have their resources looted. So the armies of idiot Marxists are going to be the first ones to be put up against a wall and shot once the revolution is successful. They will end up very much like Leon Trotsky. They will end up very much like the vast majority of Stalin's lieutenants and deputies. They will end up dead, maybe tortured first. But what we have seen is that very much like with the mafia, everybody thinks they're going to end up on top, and then they start turning on each other. So I don't think this is going to end the way a lot of these evildoers think it's going to end. I don't think it's going to end well for them. But if we're not careful, it's not going to end well for any of us. So we really need to get to work.
So you believe that many of the globalists are, like I've said for years, they're letting the junkyard dogs off the leash, the Marxists and the Islamists, and then they'll step in and offer up the solution. So you believe they are being controlled by the globalists?
Of course, and it's always been like that. I mean, Karl Marx was financed by the League of the Just. These were super wealthy men. Almost all the communist revolutions that have been successful precisely because the deep state globalists wanted them to be successful. Zbigniew Brzezinski talked about Marxism as the next phase in human revolution, but then after that comes the real next phase, which is what we want, the technocratic system. He called it the technotronic age. So they have a very different vision in mind. The Rockefeller clan, the Soroses, the Rothschilds, the Epstein, they are not planning on giving up their billions, okay? They're building bunkers right now until the storm passes, and then they think they're going to come out rulers of the ashes. But I don't think it's going to go the way they think it is.
Let's pray it doesn't. There it all is, libertysentinel.org. He's got 2 articles over there reviewing the Epstein files, biggest scandal ever, part 1, and then this one here, which is titled Deep State Fixer, Epstein's Ties to Rothschilds and Trilateral Commission at the libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. We also carry his broadcast here at Worldview Tube. Thank you for everything you do, Alex.
No, thank you, Brandon. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on here. Appreciate it, and I hope people will tune in to the Sentinel Report on Worldview Tube.
Thank you. I hope they will as well. Alex Newman checking in. Wow. Great stuff, right? We'll be right back. Studies have shown America's water supply is not safe. It is filled with toxins and chemicals. Go look it up. This is fact. Fact check me. And then I'll offer you this solution. Worldviewwater.net. Take a look at this list. This water purifier removes all kinds of harmful toxins like lead, fluoride, chlorine, arsenic, pesticides, bacteria, and pharmaceuticals, and more. This is the water I give to my 3 dogs. I drink it every day. I have one of the filters in my kitchen, under the kitchen sink, and then I have one on my shower. Do you know how much your skin absorbs of water when you're in the shower each and every day? Protect yourself and your body. Remain healthy. Eat good food. Drink purified, clean water. One of the most powerful water filters available in America. Worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net. Again, tell your family and friends about it. In fact, maybe even give this as a gift to some of your family and friends, particularly those of you who have children and grandchildren. Worldviewwater.net. Joining me now is Brian Festa. He is working with the family. He's the attorney working with the family of this little gal. We covered it last night. We knew about it about 3-4 weeks ago. We wanted to wait and verify some things. And after we verified some things, we went with it last night. And it's very troubling. We had Dr. Thorpe with us, who was at the courthouse yesterday, interviewed people there on the ground. We played those. This little gal taken from her family, from her mother 2 years ago. As hard as it is to believe this has gone on for 2 years, second hard to believe is that it happened in Florida, is happening in Florida. Brian Festa now joins me. He's with WeThePatriotsUSA.org, WeThePatriotsUSA.org. Brian, thank you for making time for us today. And Annie Cyrus, our broadcast partner, helping set this up. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
So for those who maybe don't know, tell them the story. We have the video of what went down there that day, a lot of it. But tell us the story from your perspective. You're representing this mother as the attorney, correct?
No, not exactly. I am an attorney, but our firm, We the Patriots USA, has secured counsel for the mother in Florida. We're based out of Idaho. We're a nationwide nonprofit, We the Patriots USA. But we don't, obviously I am not licensed in all 50 states myself. So we retain counsel where appropriate for our clients. And so we have retained counsel for her. And she's being well represented down in Florida. And yes, it's horrible that this is happening in Florida of all places. But I've seen just as horrific situations, medical kidnapping cases like this in Missouri. And other places that you would never suspect. You think it's New York and California and places like that, and it is. But it's places like Missouri and Florida, and even here in Idaho. We had a case during COVID, the baby Cyrus case, you may remember.
Oh, yes. We covered that case. We interviewed one of the relatives, the grandfather.
Yeah, they alleged he was malnourished and ripped the baby out of the mother's arms in the back of an ambulance. And took him away into CPS custody. I mean, this happens in states like Idaho and Florida and Missouri. It's not just in blue states. So we need to be mindful of that. And this is why we have made a commitment here at We the Patriots USA to end medical kidnapping in America in all 50 states. And you know what? If that means that I've got to go toe-to-toe with the Ron DeSantis administration like I have here in Florida right now, well, then so be it, because we've got to bring these children home. We've got to protect these children.
Now, they wanted to try to accuse the mother of, what is it called? Munchausen's disease or something. Munchausen's.
Yeah. She passed a psych evaluation. She cleared all of that. That's all garbage. That's baloney. All right. If you see, and I'm sure you've seen the footage because it's all over the internet. We didn't share it, but it was shared by a third party. It's all over there. And when the DCF workers, Department of Children and Families is what they call it in Florida, when they show up to her house, she's crying, understandably. And she tries to explain. They accuse her of refusing to give this child medication because it's her now 7-year-old, at the time was a 5-year-old daughter. It's been 2 years. Her 7-year-old daughter has cystic fibrosis. And she was explaining that, listen, they were accusing her, you're refusing to give her medication. She said, I didn't refuse anything. Before she could even finish her sentence, the DCF worker basically tells her to shut up, said, don't interrupt me. I'm talking. Don't interrupt me while I'm talking. Won't even let her defend herself. Said, one thing is clear. This child is leaving with us tonight, regardless. There's nothing you can say. We've made up our minds. And no, we haven't gone to court. No, we don't have a search warrant, but we don't need one in Florida. We're taking your child. And she's crying, but she retains her composure. Other than the fact that obviously she's visibly upset and crying, she doesn't scream at them. She doesn't get violent. She doesn't lock the door and try and barricade herself in. There was a police officer with the DCF workers. She doesn't do any of that. She lets them into the house. She's calm. She's collected. And at one point, you see her going over the medication list with the DCF workers. It's a long, which is proof right there, Brannon, by the way, that she is providing treatment for her daughter. Just maybe not the FDA black box warning liver failure, liver death drug that they were trying to give her.
Okay, that's the key there. That's the key there. She is giving her medication that I think I saw you say in another interview has been used for people with cystic fibrosis for 50 years, right?
Since the 1950s, so more than 50 years.
Okay.
Really going on 70 years now.
Oh, it would be, wouldn't it? Now, but she doesn't want to give her the one that comes with the black box warning that Dr. Thorpe talked about last night, that you just listed off could do what to this little child?
So there's, I think, 190 deaths reported from liver failure. There's also been liver failure reported within the first month of usage, even in patients who have no documented history of liver problems, of any kind of liver pathology. So you're talking about a very, very dangerous drug, potentially, that she just wanted time to investigate. She never actually said, I'm not going to use this drug. She never actually said that. She said she wanted more time. She wanted a second opinion, which she did get. She was exploring other treatments. She had little Kenley on other treatments, and they were working well. She was perfectly well nourished. She was not underweight. She was gaining weight, as a matter of fact.
Not on oxygen.
She was not on oxygen, running around, playing, laughing until these workers came to the door. But here's the other thing. So, she's going over the medication list, which proves that she was treating her. And at one point, she has to ask the DCF worker, would you like me to write this down for you? And she's like, yes, that would be helpful. And then they take her out of the home, place her in foster care 5 hours away. Oh. And then they don't even end up putting her on that black box medication for another 3.5, almost 4 months. So ostensibly, that was the reason you took this child out of the home. But then you don't even end up really giving her the medication for several months because the foster family had plans for a cruise and they brought the daughter along on this cruise had an international stop, by the way, too, taking her out of the country. They have time to do that. But this medication that was supposedly so vital, they're not going to give to her. And at one point, the DCF worker, when she was in Joy's house, says to her as she's about to take the child away, oh, this is just temporary, Mama. Well, it's been 2 years now. This happened in March of 2024. It is now February of 2026. Okay? So this is nearly 2 years. That doesn't sound very temporary to me.
No, it certainly doesn't. And they're 5 hours away, and then they take her on a cruise out of the country. I don't know how this mother makes it. I mean, how does she sleep at night? How does she go about her day? Can any parent or grandparent imagine this happening? How would you sleep at night? Is this her only child, by the way?
No, she has a teenage daughter as well.
Okay. Have they threatened her with that child at all?
Not that I know of, but we saw that in Missouri. The case that I mentioned in Missouri, it was a child, and just because the parents in that case had explored, again, an alternative treatment to treat their son's autism, and he was showing great results, no evidence of abuse or neglect, they took not only that 6-year-old nonverbal autistic child out of the home and placed him in foster care, actually 3 different foster cares. They kept moving him around, or 4, I think. They also took his 3 siblings who weren't even accused of doing anything with the 3 siblings. They took all 4 minor children out of the home in that case. Luckily, in this case, they did not. But still, we need to bring this girl home. I mean, 2 years and
Where
living
is
5
Ron
hours
DeSantis
away.
on this? Where is Casey? Is her name Casey DeSantis, the first lady?
So I've been, we the Patriots USA we've been tagging them. We've been responding to their tweets. Casey DeSantis had one, the first lady in Florida had one a couple of weeks ago, or just about a week and a half ago, how we're the strongest state for medical freedom. Oh, we made sure to drop comments there to retweet that. My good friend, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, I've been on her podcast a few times. She's been dropping comments on DeSantis. At first, we were also, calling out Dr. Ladapo a little bit, but it's my understanding he doesn't have oversight authority over DCF. He's only in charge of the Department of Public Health, so he's not really the one to, for anybody to be calling out, because he doesn't have.
Can he get the governor on the phone? Can he get the governor on the phone?
But the governor could certainly do something.
With a pen, with a stroke of a pen, right?
With a phone call, probably. He can't overrule the judge or tell the judge what to do, because there is a separation of powers in this country. Executive branch doesn't rule the courts, so he can't do that. But he is the one who ultimately has responsibility over that agency, and so people have been calling his office. We still don't have any answer from him except a single tweet from his, I guess they call it an ex post now, from his communications director about 2 weeks ago on a Sunday evening, saying that, the girl is safe. And, DCF, it was the right thing, to do to take her out. And we can't reveal any details, but the facts are on our side. But listen, everybody that's involved in the case that I've spoken to, and, even the doctors involved in this case, everyone who's involved in this case, nobody has seen what they're talking about. So unless they're hiding information from the mother and from her attorney and whatever is in that record that they claim backs up taking her away, none of us have seen it.
Okay, Brian, is what caused me, after hearing about this story 3 or 4 weeks ago, that little information you put out right there is what caused me to wait in covering this, because I was led to think, oh, well, maybe there's more of this story than I'm not being told. I don't want to go out there and get on the limb. So that right there is what's caused, I think, some folks to step back and wait. But then when we got Dr. Thorpe more involved in telling us what's going on, watched an interview with you, I'm like, wait a minute, I think we need to step in and talk about this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, fine, you can't disclose details of what's in the case file. I get it, and neither can I. But the point is, there is no indication this child was being abused or neglected. If there was a difference of opinion between doctors as to what medication to place her on, that is something that should have been worked out with the parent and the physicians. And then if DCF workers want to get involved in that conversation, I suppose if the mother gives them permission, I really don't think it's within their purview, because it's confidential patient and physician conversations that are protected by HIPAA, and they don't have really a right to insert themselves unless, again, there's actual evidence, real evidence, not purported, not just somebody making a bogus claim out there, because anybody can say anything. But unless you have real evidence of abuse or neglect, you don't have a right to be stepping in there, and certainly not a right to be taking this girl away for 2 years and moving her 5 hours away with supervised visits, whatever it is, once a week or whatever. I don't know what exactly the schedule is, but that's absolutely ridiculous, and that should be illegal in Florida. And actually, there needs to be, and I've been talking about this, there needs to be a law change in all of these states, not just Florida, all of these states that can hold the CPS or DCF workers accountable and criminally liable in court if they file a false report. If it's found later that they didn't have sufficient evidence and they just acted out of whatever, their own arrogance, their pride, knee-jerk reaction to some report they heard, they should be held criminally liable. And that'll put an end to this. Because if those workers know that unless they're 100% sure there's abuse, they don't take that child away, children aren't going to be taken away anymore.
Indeed. Are you under a gag order of any kind, you personally?
Well, sort of the whole world is. And I'll leave it to you to tell me what you think about that and the First Amendment and the Constitution. But that's something that can be discussed at another day, if need be. But I have been very careful to tell people that unless that gag order, that protective order is lifted, nobody really should be releasing any information that is confidential if they have access to it. The parties, obviously Joy and her attorney, have access to it. They should not be releasing anything in the case file, any names of the DCF workers. Yes, there's a gag order on parties, all parties and non-parties, which means everybody in the world, including you.
Wait a minute. You
are under a gag order. You are. Mm-hmm.
I'm under a gag order not to talk to you about this?
No, that's not what I said. I said not to release confidential information in the case file. Of course, you haven't seen the case file, so how would you know what that is? Right?
Exactly. I haven't seen it, no.
Not to release names of DCF workers, images, photos, whatever. So we did not release that body cam footage. We haven't released any images. We haven't released any names. The only thing that I've discussed is things that have been public in the public sphere long before.
Wait a minute. We're not supposed to be showing the video of the CPS workers showing up?
I mean, if I don't know what state you're in,
Tennessee.
But unless you're in, all right, I'm not licensed in Tennessee, so I can't give you legal advice. But if you were in my home state of Idaho, or if I were, if another state that I'm licensed in, Connecticut, the advice would be, err on the side of caution and don't show it. That would be, but other people have showed it while I'm on an interview without really my permission, but just they don't need my permission. I guess they're going to do what they want.
I have it right here, and I was going to show it, but now I'm not going to.
I wouldn't recommend it. That's all. I can't give you official legal advice. I'm not your attorney. Consult your attorney if you want to. If you want to release it, consult your own attorney, but in Tennessee, who's licensed in your state. But all I can say is I personally have not been showing it. We as an organization have not been showing it. Once the case is closed, at that point, if the protective order is lifted, then yes, that would be a different story.
But it's body camera footage. Who released it? I mean, how are we liable for something that someone else released in the public domain?
I'm not saying you ever would be held liable. I'm just saying I'm always a better safe than sorry type of guy.
Yep.
So I don't, our organization has gone out of our way, even maybe more than we've needed to tell people to abide by the court order, respect the process. Because really the court, all right, let's say you don't agree with the court order. Let's say you do think there's some kind of First Amendment issue with it. Okay. But even if you don't agree with it, just abide by it. The court isn't really the boogeyman here. The judge isn't the boogeyman because the judge didn't take Kenley away. Who took Kenley away, Brannon?
CPS.
DCF in this case. And Ron DeSantis oversees that agency. He is the one who has the authority to tell his DCF workers, close this case, return that girl home, and withdraw this from court. He has more authority than anyone else right now because that's his agency. That's his open case investigation. That he holds all the power. So stop slinging mud at the court. Anyone, not you, but other people who have protesting outside the court. That's fine. It's your First Amendment right. But the court didn't take this girl away. Okay, Ron DeSantis' DCF took this girl away and won't bring her home.
Wow. All right, keep us posted. Let me show your website here. I think I have it somewhere on my many open files. What is your website? I thought I had it here.
WeThePatriotsUSA.org.
WeThePatriotsUSA.org. That is the website. There it is. WeThePatriotsUSA.org.
And that's Kenley right there. All right.
Breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's no way, if you click on that, it brings you to the fundraiser. But there is no way that she should have been without her mother, without living away from home for the last almost 2 years now. It's infuriating. It's disgusting. It's heartbreaking. I can think of more adjectives, but I'll stop there. It's just really a horrible situation all the way around. And Joy, again, to her credit, has done everything she can to maintain her composure. We're going to continue raising money. We've raised just over 17,000. The goal is 25. So we're getting there. We're really close, folks. If you could please, if you're able to, make a donation to support her, to bring her home, because this has been very expensive already. There's been a lot of legal hours put into this, because her attorney was just sort of had to jump into this. She was going pro se. When Joy first called me, she was pro se, which means without an attorney, just going into court up against DCF by herself. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
That's
it is. Yeah, it is.
almost guaranteed to lose.
All right, Brian, thank you for what you're doing. Keep us posted, will you?
Yes, absolutely, Brannon. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you. And pray for this family and this little girl. We'll be right back.
There's been at least 3 or 4 times during the last year from October 7th, 2023 until now, 3 or 4 times. And the story that we put out, it'd be the next day before Fox News would carry the same story. And so how does Brannon do it? Well, he's got I think a staff that believes in what they're doing. And so nothing's more important than getting the information to you quickly, getting it there accurately. And so that's just a blessing. So I pray that you'll support it with your prayers, with your financial giving, and encourage other people to watch. There are people desperate for this information, and you're the one that can lead them to that.
Joining me now is our good friend, Hedieh Mirahmadi. She joins us. She's one of our broadcast partners. We're going to talk about a couple things. One is the bill in Virginia that could criminalize free speech when you criticize Islam. And the other is this letter put out today by Carrie Prejean Bowler, who is on the Religious Liberty Commission for the Trump administration. She mentioned Islam today in her little statement. And I know that Hedieh is going to really want to comment on this. It's really ridiculous. All right. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Thank you for having me. So it's always awesome to be here with your audience and with you. Thank you, Brannon.
Thank you. All right. What do you make of this bill in Virginia that I talked with Usama Dakdok this week? Is it as bad as it sounds?
So here's the insidious nature of what they're trying to do is they're putting it inside. So it's a factor in hate crime reporting for assault and battery. And they're trying to codify Islamophobia as, here is a quote, malicious prejudice or hatred directed towards Islam or Muslims. And so the problem with that is they're merging the criticism of Islam to a hatred of Muslims. And they're trying to create a protected class. So the hate crime legislation covers all religions. There's no reason to do a carve out for Islam. But the reason they're doing this is to elevate Islamophobia as like this protected class so that it'll spill over into other areas. And so they start off by saying this has nothing to do with free speech. This is only in the criminal penal code for assault and battery. Why are you making such a fuss? But the consequences, as we've seen in Europe, is once the term Islamophobia as hatred towards Muslims and Islam gets codified, it gets then applied in all these other areas. And so that's how it ends up being applied to speech. It gets being applied to banking. It is how people have been debanked, deplatformed, because they now have this codified language for what Islamophobia actually is as they define it. And so they claim it's not about just ideology or free speech, but they've equated beliefs and ideology to identity. So as if they're inseparable. So it's kind of like a quasi race argument that Muslims are this protected race, similar to blacks or to Latinos, is that they're creating a race category for Muslims.
So speaking as you and I do, talking about Islam, and you come from an Islamic family, you were practicing Islam before you became a believer in Jesus Christ. Speaking about Islam, speaking the truth about Islam, saying what it actually teaches, that could be perceived as a hate crime. That could be perceived to put on the same level as a physical assault, right?
No, that's not what this legislation does. This legislation is specifically about assault and battery. So if someone hits someone else and they happen to be a Muslim, they can then say this was Islamophobia. So it elevates the crime to a hate crime, but there has to be an assault and battery.
Okay. So they're not equating speech with the assault, because that's kind of what was going around, right?
Right. That is incorrect.
Okay.
I looked up the law specifically for that purpose, and that is not what's happening. That doesn't mean there's not these tremendous amount of downstream effects, but the reality is they're specifically codifying this so that they can then apply it in other areas.
Okay.
Beyond the assault and battery.
But you could still be charged with saying truthful things about Islam under hate speech, right?
This is not a hate speech law. This is a criminal penal code for assault and battery. So there has to be an assault.
Okay, so right now it doesn't affect us when what we say or do.
Not now.
Okay, well that's good to know, because there was some information going around that was erroneous then.
Yeah, it was exaggerated.
Okay.
But it's basically pointing to Europe and saying this is what happens next. So in reality, the way this has worked in Europe is that it starts with the assault and battery, it's categorized as hate crime, and then later, when they want to ban speech, they say, well, this is Islamophobic, and then they point to that codified language. It's, malicious hatred of Islam and Muslims or Muslims.
And could the individual that did the assault point back to, well, I was listening to Hedieh's broadcast. That's where I learned this. And therefore, you get charged as the one broadcasting it.
I do not know. I don't know if that's going to come out in case law. But as it is written, it is supposed to be specifically for the perpetrator. Now, if the perpetrator can say they were motivated by the speech provided by this other network or this person, that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the courts would accept that.
Because that was the concern several years ago when we started talking about free speech and hate crime laws, was that they could point to, oh, I learned this from X broadcaster or X pastor, right? Now they're dragged into it.
Well, I mean, it's a serious problem. I don't want to underplay this, because this is a very slippery slope, because I want your listeners to understand that when we equate ideology, criticism of ideology with hatred towards people, that is a very dangerous nexus, because especially as Christians, we hate the sin, but we love the sinner.
Yeah.
And so our criticism of Islam is not a hatred of Muslims, but this codification merges those two classifications, and this will have the broadest ramifications on Christians. Down the line, if this gets applied in an HR setting, in a banking setting, and just like you put out a conference and your venue refuses to host you because they say this is Islamophobia. And you're like, what are you talking about? Well, malicious prejudice towards Islam or Muslims.
Wow.
Because they have codified language they could point to.
All right, let's switch gears if you don't mind. Let's go to the Religious Liberty Committee hearing that was held yesterday. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, that this went down.
Yeah, I was focused on Kaufman, on Kaufman City.
Oh, you were focused on out of Texas or where?
Texas.
Uh-huh.
This is in Texas.
Okay.
This is a huge problem. If you want to start with that, then we go with religious liberties.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had Annie, I believe she was on your show too, talking about the Qatar City in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what's happening in Kaufman County, which is just south of Dallas, is they actually have Kaufman Solar is a company that already owns 2,000 plus acreage. What they're claiming is that Sea Holding, and this is public, a Dubai-based company wants to buy an adjacent 2,000 acres. We're talking a total of 4,000 acres right next to Dallas to build what they call a sustainable city. So thanks to the aware public that went crazy at the Planning Commission meeting, they put a hold on it until they can investigate whether they would put restrictions on the land holding so that they would not build a Sharia city. So Republican Representative Lance Gooden basically said, you have to put in the deed that you're not going to put mosques and Islamic centers. So preliminarily, there's an agreement to do this, but this Sea Holdings, this Dubai GeoCities project is already in the Middle East in Dubai, and they definitely have Islamic centers and mosques on the property. And so, I mean, this is an invasion, Brandon. This is massive. Forget the epic city, 200 and 300 acres. We're talking thousands of acres being bought by foreign governments to take over America. to basically influence all of the local politics. They are asking for water rights, electricity rights. They will be an entire city with the rights that come with being an entire city.
All right. Now, let's go to the religious liberty thing. I have an article we put up over at worldviewreport.com. If you guys want to go find it, here it is. X model. It's popping up here. It's about the X model. I don't know why it's taking so long to load. Here we go. X model appointed by Trump to religious freedom panel defends Candace Owens, rips Zionist supremacy. The article says a U.S. Justice Department commissioner on religious freedom was appointed by President Donald Trump to defend controversial far-right podcaster Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson from accusations of anti-Semitism at a hearing this week before castigating what she described as Zionist supremacy. On Monday, the the Religious Liberty Commission, which was established by President Trump last year, held its first hearing focusing on anti-Semitism and religious freedom in the private sector. During the hearing, commission member Carrie Prejean Bowler grilled Babylon Bee owner and conservative activist Seth Dillon on the definition of anti-Semitism, taking him at criticism of Owens and Carlson, both of whom she defended from accusations of anti-Zionism. Quote, I would really appreciate it if you would stop calling Candace Owens an anti-Semite, end quote. Quote, she's not an anti-Semite. She just doesn't support Zionism, and that really has to stop. I don't know why you keep bringing her up, and Tucker, end quote. Dillon retorted that Owens and Candace are, quote, the two most famous anti-Semites, end quote. There you go again, she said. I guess everyone's an anti-Semite. Later, she was asked whether the slogan Christ is King and Christian claims that Jews killed Jesus would be considered anti-Semitic. Notably, Prejean Bowler wore a pin on her lapel with the U.S. flag alongside the Palestinian Liberation Organization flag. She went on to say, quote, I will continue to stand against Zionist supremacy in America. I am a proud Catholic. I in no way will be forced to embrace Zionism as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. I am a free American, not a slave to a foreign nation, end quote. My response to that on the radio today, I had Daniel Greenfield with Front Page Mag on and our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. My guess is this woman, if she were to come on the broadcast, can't define Christian Zionism in relation also to Christian Zionism. She couldn't define Zionism correctly. I don't think she could. And she couldn't define the difference between Zionism and Christian Zionism. The reason I believe that's the case, and Carrie is welcome to come on the program, I will be a gentleman, I will be fair, I will ask her questions, I will let her respond, I will let her put out her side, and she can respond. That's what we do on Talk TV, Talk Radio. We invite people that we disagree with. I don't believe in, critiquing and going after people per se and not giving them the opportunity to respond. She has the freedom to get a hold of us, email, text, phone call, whatever. We will gladly interview her, give her equal time to respond. But I don't think she can define. Now, maybe if she has some opportunity to do some homework, she might. But I don't think if I was at that hearing and said, can you define Zionism? Now, can you define Christian Zionism and contrast the two? I don't think she could do it accurately. The reason I say that is she said, I will continue to stand against Zionist supremacy in America. I'm a proud Catholic. I in no way will be forced to embrace Zionism as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Okay, well, Zionism doesn't really have a standing with biblical prophecy. Christian Zionism does, but there are many Zionists who have been secular humanists, atheists.
Right.
They don't have any religious holding. They just believe in the historical right of the Jews to the land. Now, sure. Christian Zionists, we believe in their historical right, but also their biblical right per Genesis chapter 15. And yes, we believe there's some prophetic implications involved. But when she doesn't use the word Christian Zionism, but just Zionism, and tries to tie that to fulfillment of Bible prophecy, that tells me she doesn't really understand the difference between Zionism and Christian Zionism. What say you?
Well, first of all, nobody has the mastery that you do in defining those terms. But I actually had watched the discussion between her and Seth Dillon, and he masterfully responded to her comments, because he was basically outlining when she said about Candace being just an anti-Zionist. He's like, no, quite frankly, these are the comments she made that make it clear she's an anti-Semite. And she specifically said it on air that when somebody asked her, oh, so you're against Israel? She's like, I'm against the Jews. She's like, I'm taking the gloves off. So he basically outlined the comments that she made. And the distinction for Christian Zionism, isn't this just a common Catholic view? Is that they just don't, it's replacement theology, right? They just don't believe in the existence of Israel's right to the land, and that's how the last days unfold. They don't even have a concept of the end times, do they, Brandon? You know better than I do.
No, the Catholic Church will teach and make reference to the book of Revelation, but you're right, the eschatology of the Catholic Church would not line up with that of mine, a dispensational Christian. Right. Now, they'll talk about the Antichrist and they'll talk about some of these things, no doubt about it. But of course, at the end of the day, unlike Christian Zionists, dispensationalists, Brannon Howse and others, we don't believe in our Christianity being world domination. We don't believe in establishing the kingdom of God on earth. There are those in the Protestant world that do, the Reconstructionists, the Dominionists, the New Apostolic Reformation crowd. But we don't believe that. We believe that God's kingdom, per Daniel 2, comes, it crushes Satan's kingdom, and God brings his kingdom. We aren't involved in building the kingdom on earth. God will bring it at the end of that 7-year tribulation period when he returns and judges all the nations. You've got Matthew 25, the judgment of the sheep and the goats, the Gentile nations, and then we have the establishment of the 1,000-year millennial kingdom reign of Christ. He does it. We're involved in the Great Commission. This is the church age. We're involved in the Great Commission. We're not involved in setting up some kind of theocracy or Christian world government or trying to Christianize the world so that we can set the right temperature and environment for Christ's return. Do we want to see people get saved? What's that?
Is that what you think she's implying, that Christian Zionists are trying to create a theocratic worldview?
Well,
is that the implication you think?
I don't know. That's why I'd like to interview her. I don't fully know. But and I don't know what she believes. But if I were to guess, I would think she has been told that we as Christians believe that Israel has to be here in the land, get their third temple, and that all of this has to happen for Christ to return. And therefore, Christians, the Christian Zionists, the dispensationalists particularly, really put preference over Israel over America because we have a prophetic guideline or prophetic storyline that must be fulfilled. So I would think she says that because that's what you hear. Oh, the Scofield Bible is so bad. It wasn't until around the 1930s in the Scofield Bible that you had dispensationalism come about and the teaching of the rapture. All that's baloney. We have first century church fathers talking about, and I've shown it on the TV several times, the removal of the church, right, before the tribulation. So that's baloney that's taught. Oh, that this all came from some girl that had a vision, and this is where pre-trib came from. No, all of this is, again, people regurgitating the same misinformation over and over instead of going and saying, no, we can find this in the Bible. We can find scripture. I will not take you. You will not go through that hour. And the Greek word that is used is literally for you will not go through it. I will take you out of, not I will take you through. I will take you out of, the Lord saying to one of the 7 churches. I will keep you from that hour. I will take you out of, not take you through it, take you out of. All the references to the church not being mentioned after the 3rd chapter of Revelation. It doesn't show up again until the marriage supper of the Lamb. I mean, we could go on and on, lots of scripture to say this is why we believe in the pre-tribulation removal of the church. Now, people can disagree. They can be pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, amillennial, whatever. But to make arguments that this is somehow made up, it's not in the Bible, that's a straw man. Now, I don't know what she believes, but I will say this, that for her to sit there and to not be able to distinction between Zionists, many of them who are secular humanists, and have no eschatology, certainly no biblical prophecy, end-time belief, and doesn't seem to be able to separate that from Zionism, from Christian Zionism is a problem. But then she's wearing a pin. Do we have a picture of it, Logan? She's wearing the American flag with the Palestinian flag. Now that to me,
this
if she wants to claim she's America first, then why is she wearing a pin, which I showed on TV and radio today? I showed a picture of Mohammad Abbas, the president of the PLO, with those flags behind him, who wrote his doctrinal thesis that the Holocaust never happened, and who was trained by the KGB. So who do you think is stirring up all this dissension and garbage in the country? And you say, well, I'm America first, but you got the PLO flag, which that organization was directly working with the KGB to help bring down America. I mean, this woman, I don't think she would know any of this. I really don't think she knows what I'm saying. This would all be news to her.
How do we make the assumption she's America first? Just because she was appointed to the Religious Liberties Commission?
Because she keeps trying to claim, apparently, that she's America first. And that somehow we are not America first. And I would say, actually, you know what? By standing with the Jewish people and standing against anti-Semitism and the rise of Islam, we are America first because they are our closest ally, and we have the same enemy trying to destroy us. We're the great Satan, they think. They're the little Satan. They're going to come after the Saturday people, the Sabbath, and then the Sunday people, the Christians. So why would we not work together when we, of course, get our Bible from the Jews, all the writers being Jewish except for Luke? We get the Messiah from the Jewish line.
Jesus is Jewish.
Why would we allow for these people to be slaughtered? They're going to come after us next. Right? And we're told we're not to allow this to happen to them, right? Genesis 12, verse 3.
There's a strange brain rot that's going on right now where people's criticism, people like this who criticize Israel, somehow makes Muslims good. So I don't understand how that translates, that just because you have a problem with Israel, that suddenly elevates the status of Islam. So even though they've been trying to conquer the West for 1,400 years, they've destroyed large swaths of Christendom for centuries, suddenly you're mad at Bibi Netanyahu, and now the Muslims are great and you want to wear a PLO flag. So I don't know how that brain rot happened other than to say it's a demonic influence, but it just shows how with the Board of Peace and bringing on the Pope, that this ecumenical rise of the children of Abraham, the Abrahamic faiths, the Abrahamic Accords, this is all moving us towards this unbelievable doctrine of demons and deceit of the people. And the Catholic Church, segments of it at least, seem to be a part of that.
Well, I've been promoting this all week. I should get an interview with Peter. I've been promoting his book all week. Can we not get the man on the show? We're trying. Did you get a hold of Jim? Jim's got his number, right? He's sending our request to Peter. All right, well, let's hope we can get him on, because we've been promoting this on 74 Christian stations and TV. Have you read this book yet?
No.
Everybody should read it. Everybody should buy it and read it. The Invisible Coup by Peter Schweitzer, how American elites and foreign powers use immigration as a weapon. And one of the things he talks about in here is a whole chapter on Muslim Brotherhood. And he does a great job.
The greatest coup of all time.
Yeah. And then he goes into how so many of these Marxist progressive groups are Catholic groups. Now, I'm not going to condemn all Catholics here. I'm not doing that. We have a lot of our own problems in the Protestant world, right? And there are some Catholics like Malachi Martin, who was a Jesuit, who left the Jesuit order and began to write books warning, hey, these Masons and Marxists are going to work together to destroy the Catholic Church and traditional Protestant Christianity and usher in the New World Order. And they're going to indoctrinate the young seminarians until those guys become old enough to actually elect a Marxist pope. He predicted all that in his books. And of course, he died in 1999. And then, of course, after he died, years later, what did he get? Pope Francis, now the next pope, right? Marxist popes. So he told us this was all going to happen. So there have been some wonderful Catholic people that have stood up to this, and we don't want to paint with the same broad brush that other people do. But he points out that you got these Marxist, Jesuit-type, Marxist liberation theology Catholic groups from Latin America that have penetrated America. They've come here, and they are using immigration to destroy America. And he keeps pointing out these Marxist, Catholic-aligned organizations and Catholic churches that are aligned with him. Let's not forget Barack Obama. Wasn't he working in the social justice department in the basement of a church, Catholic church in Chicago? Wasn't he mentored by his own admission by Gregory Galuzzo, a former Jesuit who he threw his arm around, according to Chicago Mag, and credited him with helping him win the primary in Iowa against Hillary Clinton? And Gregory Galuzzo was mentored by Saul Alinsky. So what we're saying here is we have a long history of the Catholic, percentage of the Catholics working to bring down America with the Marxist Latin American Catholics who have penetrated the country. And he goes into who the organizations are, how they work, what they're doing. Everyone should read this. And the reason I bring that up is if we're really America first, wouldn't we be pointing out what Muslim Brotherhood is doing, what the Palestinian Liberation Organization is doing,
you literally
what China's
don't hear
doing,
it
what the
anywhere.
KGB is doing?
You don't hear it anywhere. There's a massive invasion of the Gulf nations building entire cities in the United States. You see this massive push of Islamic centers. I mean, I was in this small town in New Brunswick, Texas. They said 5 mosques are being built. There's no more than 24 Muslims in the entire city. So why this giant influx of cash and capital building this kind of Islamic takeover? And you don't hear anything from our federal government. There's not a word. I mean, every now and then you hear a pop-up, a mention of designating the Brotherhood. That went out with very little fanfare. It's just as if nothing's happening as these communities across the U.S. are screaming about the takeover in their cities and in their towns. But you hear nothing from the federal government or what they're going to do about it. It's a cognitive dissonance beyond proportion.
And wouldn't Carrie be wise to spend more of her time trying to figure out what's going on with her own self-professed Catholic church than she would worrying about the Christian Zionist, or in this case, the Zionist? Well, she put out a statement today. Okay, here it is. To be fair, I want to show her X account. Forcing people to affirm Zionism on a religious liberty commission is the opposite of religious freedom. I will not resign, and I will not be bullied for following my Catholic conscience. Okay, here's what she says. I wore an American flag pin alongside a Palestinian flag as a moral statement of solidarity with civilians who are being bombed, displaced, and deliberately starved in Gaza. I did this after watching many participants ignore, minimize, or outright deny what is plainly visible, a campaign of mass killing and starvation against a trapped population. Okay, let me just stop right there. If she's talking about Hamas, okay, I'd agree with you. Because they're killing them and starving them and taking their food and shooting them when they try to resist. But I don't think that's who she's talking about. She goes on to say, silence in the face of this is not religious liberty. It is moral complicity. My Christian faith calls me to stand for those who are suffering and I think she means to say, and in need. Okay, well, okay.
Who put her? You know, for the Religious Liberty Commission, usually you have to be appointed by somebody who kind of vouches for you.
Well, she was in a pageant of President Trump's, years ago. She was a pageant contestant. So President Trump's known her for a long time. So I'm guessing that's how that happened.
Because we also have that crazy former terrorist from Lashkar-e-Taiba. His name escapes me. He's on the same commission, isn't he?
Royer?
Royer, Ismail Royer, exactly. They must be having a great time together.
But
Maybe
yet you and I never get called. Together. You and I, with our decades and decades and decades of work and research and personal experience, never get phone calls, do we?
No.
And the thing is, you and I, if we got phone calls to just consult privately, we would never mention it. If we were like, hey, we want to talk with you, but you promise this is off the record. You won't even tell us. You won't tell people we called. You won't tell people we're asking you these questions. I would say, of course, I swear to you, I will not do that. Other than my wife knowing, no one will know. We will not tell people. You can always call me as a silent counselor to give you my advice and opinion. And I know you would do the same thing. But no, they never call us. They just keep walking into one stupid mistake after another. Right?
Yeah.
So listen to the rest of this. Are you ready? First of all, what do you make of her saying the people who are being bombed, displaced, and deliberately starved in Gaza? What do you make of that?
Yeah. But that's the thing is that these people ingest so much propaganda, they can't see the facts through the lies. It's all of this regurgitation of propaganda that's come out from Hamas and the Palestinians and all over the Arab world, that they just keep repeating the same lies, and nobody wants to hear the truth.
I mean, there were some people killed by Israel, collateral damage, but that happens in a war.
60,000 people. They claim it's 60,000 babies.
We have the videos of them going in there with ambulances, pulling the babies out with incubators to save them, the Israelis.
Exactly.
Contrary to your claim, the hearing was not narrowly about America. Nearly every witness framed anti-Semitism through the lens of Israel and Zionism. Now listen, you're going to like this. No, you're not, but you're going to want to respond. Islamophobic remarks were made from the panel and a few of my fellow commissioners. Do you remember when you said the words rapist Islamic regime, implying the entire religion of Islam is associated with terrorism, end quote? Wait a minute. Isn't the entire religion of Islam associated with terrorism? Isn't that how it was birthed and spread and they took over? And if you don't submit, they will tax you, they will kill you, they will enslave you. Or maybe you could just say the Ashada and convert. Isn't the whole thing based on cultural jihad, cultural terrorism, and kinetic terrorism? I mean, here is she claiming it's not? You imply the entire religion of Islam is associated with terrorism. Well, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I wonder what her background is in terms of, maybe she's a Muslim, maybe she's a convert, because just the fact that she's taken up that cause enough to wear a pin of the Palestinian flag it kind of tells you where she's going with all of this. So, maybe her and Ismail Royer are closer than we think, because obviously it's clear what her views are.
She says,
who's vetting these people?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Who is vetting these people? I asked those present to stop making Islamophobic remarks because they are incompatible with both Christian teaching and the purpose of a religious liberty commission. Well, let me tell you, baby girl, Carrie, is that her name? Let me tell you, baby, teaching the truth about Islam is not incompatible with Christianity. Truth is compatible with Christianity because Jesus is the very standard of what is true. Thy word is true. He who sent me is true. I am the way, the truth, and the life. So isn't it interesting? She wants to say, if we speak truth about Islam, that somehow not only is it Islamophobic, but it's not compatible with Christian teaching. No, it actually is. Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose it.
Expose them. And, it's interesting because this takes us back to the discussion in the beginning about codifying Islamophobia, is she's equating, again, criticism of Islam as hatred to Muslims. And that's a very dangerous nexus, is to claim that just because you criticize something that is quite barbaric in its doctrine, it's provable. Just read the text. That she says that means that we hate Muslims. That doesn't mean we hate Muslims. We hate Islam. And she's merging the two of them. And that's the problem with the way this discussion always goes about Islamophobia, is that it equates a criticism of the religion with a hatred for the people. And that's just false.
Well, here's her last paragraph. This really says it all. I will not be bullied. I have the religious freedom to refuse support for a government that is bombing civilians and starving families in Gaza. Okay, first of all, is there any proof that the government of Israel is deliberately bombing civilians? Are there casualties in war? Collateral damage? Yes. Have they acknowledged that when a missile or two went astray? Yes, they have. But are they deliberately? No, they tell them all the time, get out of the way, get out of there, get out of there. They're waiting. They've been doing this very slow. They could have gone on there and just done carpet bombing and done this thing in a few days. Right. They've been very strategic. Yeah, right. Like we do, yeah. And then
and also she's neglecting the fact that Hamas puts their weaponry inside schools and mosques and hospitals on purpose. So they're the ones that are putting the target on those locations. Israel has no choice but to bomb wherever those military installations are, and they purposely put them in civilian areas.
And build their tunnels underneath those hospitals.
Exactly.
She says, and of course, there's no proof that the Israeli government was starving these people. Aren't they the ones trying to stop the war at times to open up for humanitarian aid to go in?
What country is in an all-out war with a group and a people that have invaded them and bombed them repeatedly and brings trucks of food along with them. I mean, we all saw those convoys of food that the Israelis brought in. What other country in the world bombs its enemy and brings food with them?
Yeah. And Hamas was grabbing those trucks and
selling them
and running people over and shooting at people who tried to stop them to get the food.
Yes.
She doesn't mention any of that, does she? Does she mention any of that? I don't see it.
Nope.
She says, I have the religious freedom to refuse support for a government that is bombing civilians and starving families in Gaza, and that does not make me an anti-Semite. It makes me a pro-life Catholic and a free American who will not surrender religious liberty to political pressure. Zionist supremacy has no place on an American Religious Liberty Commission, end quote. Well, I don't know what she means by Zionist supremacy. It's almost like it's kind of trying to label that with white supremacy. I don't like that. If that's what, I don't like that at all. But this woman is bemoaning people's support of the nation of Israel, a sliver of land the size of New Jersey, awash in a sea of Islam around it. And she's bemoaning people that are standing up for these people in this nation that God has a plan for biblically. Romans 11 makes this clear. But yet she's got a PLO flag on her shirt. How is that? Is this not hypocritical? She's standing up for the PLO, defending them, wearing their flag, while she criticizes those that wear the flag of Israel with their American flag. Is this not the height of hypocrisy?
Absolutely. It's just ridiculous.
Do you want to see a clip or two?
Sure.
Logan, we got one? Okay, we played one today on radio, but there was two we didn't play. Let's play clip 2.
One last follow-up. Since we've mentioned Israel a total of 17 times, are you willing to condemn what Israel has done in Gaza?
No, because I unilaterally reject that it's not a genocide. The only genocide ever carried out was on October 7th when Hamas tried killing every man, woman, and child they could possibly find. Hang on, let me respond.
70,000 innocent civilians killed?
Let me respond. So first of all,
you won't condemn that?
And Carrie,
just on the record.
He's already. Excuse me. Okay. As chair of the committee.
I think it's important we have this discussion.
I agree. I'm happy to answer.
And Carrie,
I think we'd be great friends.
Yeah, Carrie, I'm happy to answer.
Carrie, we have had the discussion. Good questions, good answers. This is a commission on religious liberty. If there's another commission on this issue,
I don't know why we're talking about a foreign country.
Well, to be fair, you brought it up.
Okay.
You did.
At no point in my testimony did I mention Israel. I was very clear about American Jewry.
You did.
I did not mention Israel.
Okay. We'll talk about this later.
But that's objectively not true. I did not mention Israel.
This can be another discussion on another day, and you two can have coffee. Let's go to Rabbi to close this up, and then we'll wrap this panel up.
That's Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor of Texas. And here we go, MAGA going right into the ditch one more time. Self-inflicted wounds every time we turn around, almost on a daily basis. Self-inflicted wounds. Public PR problem because we don't vet people, number one, apparently. And then number two, we then don't respond correctly, right? Like the video that got released the other day that apparently was a legitimate video about voter fraud, we're told. And at the end of it pops up this video about various political figures being various types of animals, Trump being the lion. And in there is this picture, graphics of Michelle and Barack Obama as gorillas or apes or whatever it was. Everybody knows that is based in Darwinian evolution, which at its root is racist, right? And we can go all the way back to the early 1900s, and we've done it and shown the video footage, as horrific as it is, of human zoos with Aborigines and others in the human zoos in the St. Louis World Fair trying to say they're the missing link, okay? That is racism from the pit of hell. Has no place in the Republican Party, has no place with any Christian or anyone calling themselves conservative. Now, apparently that got clipped onto the end, got lifted up on the internet, and it went like this was being done on purpose. And I saw what supposedly happened. And I don't know why the press secretary didn't come out and say, here's what happened. It was a video about voter fraud. At the end of it was this image. It did not get clipped correctly, and we are horrifically sorry. That was not intentional. The person should have been very careful with what they did. They didn't. No, instead she came out last Friday night, and she blamed the left. Well, the left, they have to focus on this instead of all of our great accomplishments. Okay, why are you acting like the left? The left wants to blame everybody for their problems instead of taking responsibility. Caroline Leavitt, just admit it, own it. We made a mistake. Yeah. We apologize. Don't blame it on the left. So they don't vet people. Then when they run into a PR problem, instead of being honest and humble, they go blame it on someone else. Now they did not vet this woman, Carrie, apparently. She goes in there, apparently takes this whole meeting off course, and now we have this for all the Jews and all the Christian Zionists and all the Zionists to see, once again, what's going on. And many of them are so disgusted at this point with a base in Idaho for Qatar money, $40 billion coming into our schools and American universities, business relationships with some of the people in the Trump administration, reportedly with Qatar, all of this bowing down to the Arab Gulf state countries. And many of the people that are really like us in this audience, who are real students and know the truth, are shaking our heads going, how dumb can you be? You guys are acting like it's your first term. I would expect this from a first-term president, not a second-term president, right? And you see Ben Carson sitting there going, do you see the look on his face? And then Dan Patrick pounding the table trying to get control of this. They all know this is a huge PR nightmare. Thank you, Carrie. And really, I don't even know if we should be blaming her. We should be blaming whoever put her on there.
Who put her on there? Yes, I hope Laura Loomer gets to the bottom of it, because I'm sure she's not going to let it go.
Here's another. No, Laura has definitely been on this. Here's another one.
So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
So is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism?
One second, Carrie.
Yes.
It is? It is?
Sorry.
Yes.
To take that point for a second.
Let me back up. I didn't want to step over that answer. I didn't know you were both of you still talking. So
just to be clear, is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism?
Yes.
It is under IHRA?
Rabbi, sure. You're up next.
You're not sure?
Definition,
so what is the definition?
I would love to speak to that. Undoubtedly, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and undoubtedly, and one does not have to support the specific policies of the government of Israel, but to not support the right of Israel to exist, which is what anti-Zionists do, while not taking that same stand to the 28 Muslim countries and 13 Christian countries in this world, is a double standard, is hypocrisy, and is absolutely anti-Semitism.
I think it's also important that we not make Islamophobic remarks while we're here today. I would appreciate that.
I just want to say, God forbid was anything like that said. But if the Jewish people are the only people that you deny the right to have its own state, that is absolutely a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
Well, as you know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know. So are all Catholics anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt the discussion. Our committee is focused on religious liberty taken from all people, whether it be Muslims, Jews, Christians, Sikhs. We've had all those witnesses here. This is not a commission on defining religions or calling out any theology, or this is not the commission for that.
Right, but we're talking about a foreign nation, so I want to be clear on what the definition of anti-Semitism is. If I don't support the political state of Israel, am I an anti-Semite? Yes or no?
They already answered. Asked and answered.
According to you on the record, yes? If I don't support the political state of Israel?
I don't personally label people. But what I'm saying is, if somebody states if somebody says they're an anti-Zionist, they are saying about themselves that they have a double standard and hypocrisy, and they're taking anti-Semitic positions.
Okay. Carrie, you feel like you have your questions in?
I don't agree with that, because as a Catholic, I don't agree that the new modern state of Israel has any biblical prophecy meaning at all. So that's my stance.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And I'm Catholic.
Can we stop that and roll that back right there? That's key right there. Can we say that again right there?
Feel like you have your questions in?
I don't agree with that, because as a Catholic, I don't agree that the new modern state of Israel has any biblical prophecy meaning at all. So that's my stance, and I'm Catholic.
Okay. Can I comment on this?
Dr. Ben.
Well, let's hold right there. That's the end of it.
Okay, can I comment on this for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I liked about the way the man articulated it, he didn't take it to the Bible. He basically said, politically speaking, if you do not believe that the Jewish people have a right to have a state like all the other religious states, Islam in particular, then that is anti-Semitic. You're basically saying we don't have a right as a people group. She then turned it over and say, well, I don't believe in biblical prophecy about Zionism, about Israel. What does one have to do with, what does that have to do with what his argument was? Do the Jewish people have a right to have a state just like any other people group? And then she confused the issue with theology, and he's not even a Christian. So he's like, I don't care what your theology is.
Which is kind of how he started. She doesn't seem to know the difference between Zionism and Christian Zionism. And I think someone gave her a bunch of talking points and said, go in there and gaslight these people by dropping the word Islamophobic. Drop that word Islamophobic several times if you can. Make sure everybody knows you're Catholic and that you're not for Zionism, and then tell them that they're serving the state of Israel because it is tied to their biblical prophecy. And if you drop these phrases, you'll really get them. And I think she was just reading off notes, because again, I invite her on this show. I don't think Carrie could have a biblical or geopolitical or historical conversation about the Jewish state and know anything that virtually anything I'm talking about. I don't think she could keep up. I think someone sent her in there with some words to use and she used them. And she just kept saying, I'm a Catholic. I'm a Catholic. And as a Catholic, I don't believe. Stop saying Islamophobic words. Stop talking about that. It reminded me of the crazies who crashed the Minnesota church, just constantly yelling obnoxious things at people to disorient them. And she just hijacked this whole meeting. What a travesty. What a travesty. And you look at the Chiron and it says it's a panel discussion on anti-Semitism and religious freedom. And she hijacked that. And what I don't know is why Dan Patrick didn't put out a statement today. Can someone look and see if he did?
Or maybe Dr. Carson would have been like, I'm sorry I was even there.
Yes, I was embarrassed to be there. I was embarrassed for this woman. I mean, why has no one done this? And then she says, we are Catholics. We are Catholics. Can you bump that up again? And we as Catholics don't, but all of a sudden, is she the popetess? She's now the popetess.
Speaking on behalf of the millions of Catholics out there, be Catholic.
So that's my.
She's now the popetess. She's the now female co-pope telling what all Catholics are to believe. Well, let's see again what popetess Carrie had to say here. Here we go.
Okay. Carrie, you feel like you have your questions in?
I don't agree with that, because as a Catholic, I don't agree that the new modern state of Israel has any biblical prophecy meaning at all. So that's my stance, and I'm Catholic.
Catholics support the Muslims. Yeah. Dr. Ben.
Well, let's go back. Didn't she say something about we as Catholics?
First of all, I want to thank you all for your...
Yes, I don't support the political state of Israel.
I don't personally label people. For any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt the discussion.
God forbid.
Not make Islamophobic remarks while we're here today. I would appreciate it. So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
So is anti-Zionism
Hold on
anti-Semitism?
one second, Carrie.
Yes.
It is? It is?
Sorry.
Yes.
To take that point for a second.
All right,
Let me back up. I didn't want to step over that answer.
See if you can find it. I thought she said we as Catholics, but I used that opportunity to look up real quick. Who are some very prominent Catholics that have basically, for all practical matters, would be considered Zionist? You've got Rick Santorum, former U.S. Senator, a devout Catholic politician, noted as a prominent Catholic supporter of Israel in Christian Zionist contexts, including events emphasizing biblical imperatives to back Israel. Sam Brownback, former U.S. Senator and Governor, another prominent Catholic figure highlighted for his strong pro-Israel stance alongside evangelical Zionists. Patricia Keaton, I think people know her from the sitcom Everybody Loves Raymond. Another prominent Catholic political figure, she is an Emmy-winning Catholic actress and activist who founded the October 7th Coalition in 2024 to educate Christians on supporting Israel, rejecting anti-Semitism, and affirming Israel's right to existence. I didn't know she was Catholic. But wait a minute. We're being led to believe that if you're Catholic, you can't be a Zionist. Now, maybe a Catholic isn't a Christian Zionist, but they can certainly be a Zionist, but Harry's kind of leading it. I'm Catholic. And I thought she's used the word at one point, we as Catholics. I don't know if you found it.
I thought I heard that too.
I thought she said at one point, we as Catholics don't. He's searching. But, I mean, I just did a quick search, and here I'm finding all these Catholic Zionists. I shouldn't say all, but I'm finding some prominent ones. So this is ridiculous that this was allowed to happen. And it's very, very damaging from a PR standpoint, again, for the MAGA movement, whether it's Epstein, whether it's this. Every time we turn around, whether it's ICE, then we're going to capitulate to Walls and to Keith Ellison up in Minneapolis. We look disorganized. We look like
the Gulf nations buying thousands of acres of prime real estate and supposedly creating sustainable cities. I mean, this is a huge problem, and people are eventually going to tie it to this administration. Is this connected to the Gulf negotiations that happened, before the peace deal? There's just this constant onslaught of things that are propping up the Gulf and Islam. People are getting tired of it.
Yeah, indeed they are. All right, closing comment? I mean, maybe that was your closing comment, but
that was my closing comment.
I mean, as Christians, well, let me ask you this. As a Christian, do you feel your world getting smaller and smaller and smaller? Because
yes.
I do.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have this strategy as I travel across the country to empower communities. I told them, I said, listen, all we can do for sure is protect our families, our communities, and our churches. So we're going to go out, we're going to defend ourselves in the city council, we're going to fight these ordinances, but we have to fortify what's around us. Because the Lord can give us victory if we show the discipline, the courage, and the bravery to do it, but it has to start in our own homes. So, we may not ultimately win this battle for America. I mean, America's not in the Bible, so who knows
you know
how
what?
it ends.
If we keep putting up commissions that are promoting this kind of trash, and we keep trying to divide Israel and say we America run Gaza, and we are not going to allow you to do this with the Judea and Samaria, derogatorily known as the West Bank, we keep making comments from the Oval Office, then God has every reason to divide our land per Joel chapter 3, I think that's verse 2. Joel 3, I'm angry at you for dividing my land. I mean, we are inviting God's judgment. You divide my land, I'm going to divide your people. I'm even going to divide your own party. I'm going to divide your own administration, President Trump. You think you can do this?
So true.
I mean, does President Trump not realize that God is, I think, judging his administration and bringing division in his own administration? He's bringing division because his administration is daring to divide Israel. Is that too harsh of a statement on my part?
I don't think so. But I don't think he understands the ramifications of going against God.
No.
So I don't think he's seeing these fissures because the ironic part is that these are theological fissures. I mean, we are dividing against God's, the party is dividing over God's land and, the support of the Jewish people and the support of Israel. This is a very consequential thing. And I don't think he realizes that at all.
No. And that's why I wish he would actually pick up the phone and talk to some of us. But I would think that he would be hearing this from Mike Huckabee and a few others.
I'm sure.
But he's just not listening. He's not listening, is he?
I don't think so.
I think we found it where she's speaking for the Catholic Church, the Popetess. Here we go.
Standard hypocrisy and anti-Semitism.
Well, as you know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know.
There you go. Catholics don't embrace Zionism. So Popetess Carrie now speaketh for all of you Catholics there on high. Popetess Carrie. Can someone do me a graphic of her as the co-popess? Gosh, we Catholics. I mean, I would never speak for all evangelicals, okay? I tell people all the time, the word evangelical doesn't even mean anything, right? We got so many problems in the Protestant world. I would never speak for, well, we Protestants don't, because there's so many divisions and flavors, But now all of a sudden, this woman is going to speak for all Catholics.
It's bananas. It just sounds silly. It really sounds silly.
And what's her credentials for being on this committee?
That's what I'm saying. What are her credentials to even speak like this? And I mean, I wonder if all the other people who do have credentials are thinking to themselves, who brought her on here and how did she get here and elevated to this platform?
Dan Patrick's the lieutenant governor of the state of Texas. You got a brain surgeon literally sitting there. Ben Carson. Right? You got all these other people that have amazing accomplishments in life. And who is she? All I know her from is she was a beauty pageant. That's all I know.
Oh boy.
And I hate to say it, but that started to fade. So I hope she has. That started to fade from what she used to look like. So I was going to say, hopefully she has a good personality, but I think she just showed us she doesn't. So
just wild.
You better marry young people, marry someone that you really like being with and has a great personality, who's a great best friend, your best friend, who you love being with, because after the beauty fades, and it does at some point, that's what you're left with. So
yeah, well, except in your case, because your wife looks probably just as good as she did 30 years ago.
Well, I would put my hand over the Bible and say my wife is better looking than when we got married. And we go through beautiful photo albums with my daughter. My daughter's like, you don't even really look the same compared to the way you do now. No, having children, she changed her whole face, the way she looked. And I look at the pictures and I think, yeah, she's far better looking after 2 or 3 kids than she was before we got married. And no, she has gone, the older she gets, the better looking she gets. And thank you. That's a nice compliment. But I'm telling you, as her husband, myself and her own daughter tell her that all the time looking at photographs. But
beautiful inside and out.
Yeah, well, that's going to say at some point, she's going to be 85 years old. She'll still be beautiful, but she won't look like maybe she does today. But it won't matter to me because I enjoy.
You'll be partially blind by then, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I won't be seeing by then, and I'll still enjoy being with her and her company and having her beat me in gin every night when I get off the air. So, do you ever play gin? By the way, do you play gin?
Used to, yes. It's a common Persian pastime to play rummy. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, absolutely.
My
parents
gin.
were huge gamblers.
Well, I don't gamble. I just play gin, and she beats me in gin rummy. And I gotta let you go. But anyway, wow, what a conversation. I know we didn't plan to keep you this long, but this is a great segment. You do great. You do good ducking and weaving and not knowing where this bus is going.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
ResurrectMinistry.com. ResurrectMinistry.com. Guys, we'll be right back.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies Cat's Claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Joining me now is Dr. Lana. Dr. Lana, let's cover some of the health issues, some of the health things in the news. Let's start out with the COVID and viruses. COVID and viruses. Tell me about that.
It is coming back again, as we knew that it would. But what's happening is people are getting COVID and those symptoms aren't typically as bad. And then they're getting a follow-up like flu or a terrible flu where they're missing work, or if their family members have it, they have to miss work to take care of family members, or grandparents are taking care of grandchildren with it. So I wanted to share that it goes back to, you all know this, but most people in America don't. It goes back to being able to provide the antioxidants in your body and help support the T cells, our killer cells, and then naturally detoxing the body. And that is truly what the glutathione swish does. And I know we talk about that a lot, but I have had people, Brannon, that have been very, very ill, and they start swishing every hour on the hour, and they're coming out of it and they're getting back to work, or their family members are getting back to work, or their kids are getting back to school. But this is kind of a 1-2 punch with COVID, and then a really bad flu where they will get, the COVID, the positive test for COVID, but then it's just this lingering awful flu. And the people that are doing two things, they are taking glutathione every hour on the hour, and they are upping their Gadatana to 4 to 5 scoops a day. That enables their T cells to fight. It enables the antioxidants to get in their cells and allows the mitochondria to function. That's the powerhouse of your cells. And it also allows, besides the antioxidant, the glutathione piece is detoxing the body. So it kills viruses, it kills variants, it pulls heavy metals, contaminants, poisons, forever chemicals, glyphosate out of the body daily. And we can't breathe without glutathione. But if they will pair the glutathione with the Gadatana, people are recovering much faster. I had a patient who had a heart attack and got sick, and their cardiologist could not believe how quickly that they recovered. So it's the glutathione and Gadatana are the 1-2 punch for this new, COVID virus, COVID flu scenario that is just really beating people down.
So we got to boost our immune system so our own immune system can fight these things off.
Right.
That's we just keep saying that over and over, right?
Exactly. And glutathione's the only thing that will do all of it, plus help you breathe. And when you don't feel well, usually your respiratory system is compromised. So this is helping you breathe as well. Absolutely.
I want to go back to red saunas, the red light saunas, My wife is such a believer in this. Early this morning, we were both sitting together in the red light sauna, and it's a great time just to sit and visit and talk. But she's like, you got to do this every day. And she started showing me the videos of people that did this 2 days a week, 5 days a week, 6, 7 days a week. And with every increase of doing this with the red light sauna, you see the detoxing is massive, they say. And the decline of the chance of Alzheimer's and dementia just starts falling off. I mean, you just are decreasing your chances miraculously. What are your thoughts on when it comes to the red sauna? They're not that expensive anymore, you know? And so I get in it, she gets in it, and I've got to do it more regularly, but she's reading so many stories on it and making me watch these doctors that talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm Scandinavian, so the sauna is a part of my heritage, right? And seriously, it is extremely healthy. I studied with cancer experts over the years and had many, many cancer patients. The only reason I'm mentioning that word, we're not saying that cures anything, but that the saunas and heating the body was vitally important when someone is battling something as serious as that. When you can heat the body, our normal cells can handle heat. It's why, God gave us a fever. It's why sometimes, the babies and children, sometimes it's okay if they have a little fever, not so it endangers their life, of course, but our healthy cells are meant to handle heat. The rogue cells, the malignant cells, they absolutely, in lay terms, can't handle heat. They hate heat. Cancer cells hate heat, malignant cells and the rogue cells and the unhealthy cells that you want out of your body cannot handle heat. So that's just one thing. I want to get one myself. I'm thinking about where I can put it in my house, but I absolutely want to get one as well. And the thing with Alzheimer's and dementia, that comes also that's the external piece of getting into the red light sauna. But you've got to protect your body from the inside, and you've got to have healthy, clear blood vessels, okay, to protect your brain from Alzheimer's and dementia as well. So that's the other piece is your diet, your lifestyle, staying very thin, very lean, moving, eating more plants, than animals. You can eat animal protein, but it comes down to a lot of diet and lifestyle. And then the sauna can be added into that piece and swish with your glutathione and take your Gatatana and, every day when you get out of the sauna, and you can do glutathione before and after the sauna too, but it's very, very healthy. And it has been in therapeutic treatments for people that were very ill for many, many years.
Listen to this video. Here we go. Here's what Melissa sent me.
Yes. People who take the most saunas have the lowest risk of Alzheimer's disease. So there's a study from Finland. People who took 0 to 1 a week, 2 to 3 a week, and 5 to 7 a week. And the 2 to 3 saunas a week had a 30% drop in their risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Interesting.
The people who did 5 to 7 had a 60% drop in their risk of Alzheimer's disease. So like saunas.
Yes.
And it's not just sweating, it's also increasing something called heat shock proteins that actually help your blood vessels and help detoxify your system.
Wow. There you go. And of course, there's a difference between the saunas and the red light saunas. I think the red light saunas actually are better from what I'm reading.
Right. And and you go back to something so simple as, yes, red light, you've got that enhancement, but the sauna itself is about that 4-letter word, heat. Heat, heat, heat. And that's why when you can get your blood vessels to be healthier, that is the name of the game, everyone, because our blood vessels run from our head to our toes. You've got to keep them open. They fuel everything in the body, and you don't want them inflamed. And they become inflamed with diet and lifestyle and a host of other things. But the saunas, the heat alone is so healthy for you. I tell a lot of my patients that are ill, if you can, get in your bathtub and fill it up as high as you can and have a family member or something like at the door in case you need help, because people relax in the bathtub. We don't want anything bad to happen. But in all seriousness, fill the bathtub up as hot as you can, as high as you can, and soak in a 20-minute bath. Get your bathroom hot and steamy with the shower. I have taught that for years, and the sauna is just a convenient way to do that. And you're right, the prices are coming down. I'm researching them myself. That's interesting that you talked about that. So very interesting.
And of course, I'm doing this each and every day. And my beloved Dolly gets half a scoop on her food every day. I take a full scoop. Melissa takes a full scoop. We have it every day for dinner. We don't even, we used to have water with our meal. Now we just, for the last, year, we just do Gatatana. That's what we drink with our meal. And so we take this every day. Sometimes we do twice a day, but Dolly gets it every day on her food. Anything you want to say about the pet product?
Absolutely. And I want to tell you all quickly, we don't want this to be the best kept secret in America, but you're among the first to know about this in the United States for your pets. And the pet product has a little bit of the antioxidants in it, and it has the Gatatana as well. And what's happening with dogs and cats, especially if you have an older dog, okay? If you have a younger dog, it can help extend, that puppy's life, right? But if you have an older dog and that Labrador can't, get up the stairs anymore, or, your cat's kind of slowly moving around. I think cats hide sometimes when they don't feel well. What this is doing is bringing vitality back to the older dogs and older cats, and it's helping their digestive system. Owners are saying their dogs and cats even smell better. They're moving better. It brings the agility and the mobility back to their joints. Their coat is healthier. It basically turns back the clock for your dog and your cat. It's helping your dog be younger and act younger because God's nutrients are getting into the cells of your dog. But people are thrilled with the results from their dogs and cats. And I had someone that had a 19-year-old terrier that was dying in her arms, gave her a whole scoop of Gatatana every day. The dog lived for 6 more months. I mean, the dog was dying, 19 years old. The vet wanted to put the terrier down, and the owner said, absolutely not, I'm taking my dog home. And the next thing she did was the Gatatana. The dog lived 6 more months, walking around the yard, eating, drinking again. There's story after story about dogs and cats, but in a nutshell, it helps your dog or cat stay young, because it's getting God's nutrients right in your dog or cat cells. It's really a go-to, kind of a must-do. If you're on a dog lover. Yes, her teeth.
She'll be 2 in May. Yes. And all my lab's teeth starts getting all that garbage and brown stuff on them, right? Her teeth are as white as the day I brought her home. She doesn't have all that black on her teeth and brown stuff on her teeth. And I'm reading that this phytoplankton eats that stuff off her teeth.
Absolutely. And it is
which means her breath is better.
100% of people like, my dog smells good. My cat smells good. It's amazing. And what it does in you, in all of us, in our guts, it turns into an amazing prebiotic, because that means a lot of good bacteria, right? It's the food for good bacteria. So when you put that Gatatana in water and I shoot it down. You drink it for dinner, that's fine. I shoot it down. So when you get that Gatatana or that phytoplankton in water, what happens is the good bacteria start to eat the phytoplankton, and now you have a plethora of good bacteria growing. So this Gatatana is a prebiotic, and your immune system, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. How you sleep has to do with your gut hormones. Your mood has to do with your gut hormones. That's why people are calmer and more relaxed, and they're sleeping better. And yes, their teeth are better, but it's an incredible natural prebiotic.
There you go. All right, MelissaHowseGPA.com to get on your glutathione or Gatatana, MelissaHowseGPA.com. And Dr. Lana is at InspiredByWellness.com, InspiredByWellness.com, our weekly health update with Dr. Lana. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome. God bless.
All right, guys, that does it for our broadcast tonight. Hey, don't forget, we need your support. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. Look at how much we covered tonight. So much historical and biblical and geopolitical and worldview analysis. Where are you going to get this kind of program? Folks, that's not bragging. That's by design. We put together a program each and every night by design, up very early every morning, working on what we're going to talk about on radio at 1 o'clock, what we're going to have in our Worldview Report newscast, what we're going to talk about on Brannon Howse Live. I spend many hours a day studying and doing show prep and looking at what's going on in America and around the world to bring you programs that are going to help answer the questions that many have about what's happening, why is it happening, how should we respond? So this is a unique program. You know it. If you're a regular viewer, you know it. We get the emails, we get the letters saying, we watch every night, we watch every day. We cannot find another program like it. It answers so many of our questions. We don't know what we would do if this program and network weren't around because it has benefited us so much. And we thank you for that kind of feedback. And again, that's not boasting or bragging because we can't brag in anything but what God has allowed us to do and accomplish, right? Every breath we take is a gift from Him. But it is to say that we're hearing feedback from you guys, which we love it and we appreciate it. But it shows that we're doing exactly what it is we set out to do, which is build a network and programming that does not get caught up in all of the stories that I think and oftentimes are used to distract you. All the bread and circuses meant to distract people from the real issues. We don't get caught up in all that drama. We're not tabloid TV. We're trying to get to the root issues of the day and address them so that we can hopefully save the republic and, of course, be salt and light as Christians and fulfill the Great Commission and answer the questions of the skeptic and the critic and all those who ask of us the reason for the hope that we profess. So we're trying to accomplish those things, educate you, encourage you, equip you, edify you. That's what we're seeking to do here. And we spend a lot of time each and every day planning out what goes out that day to meet that specific goal. So if you appreciate the care that we take, the research, the hours, the perseverance, the preparation, we need your support because I just saw one of the bills that came in for bandwidth. And the bandwidth bill I just had to pay was like $8,000. $8,000 for 1 month to push out free programming. Whenever you watch this program, it's not free for us. We have to pay the bandwidth bill. People can watch for free, but the meter's running and we're the ones that have to pay the bill. And that doesn't count all the other bills. We got to bring in about $40,000 a month just to cover our cost. So please go now. Roll the music. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. If you did give to us in 2026, we will be sending you the receipts for your tax, paperwork with our EIN number and everything. We did get behind because we had 2 weeks of snow and no mail and nothing running, and we were locked down. But we're about to send all the receipts out. So thank you for your support. WorldviewFoundation.com. May God save America. Take care.
Spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. We're going to be joined by Patrick Wood, and we're going to be joined by Usama Dakdok. The United Arab Emirates, I guess they have a sheik who's bought 49% stake in the Trump crypto company. That's a little alarming. Then we have a bill in Virginia that will criminalize programs like this. If we speak the truth about Islam, we can be charged with a hate crime, even with assault. Words now are assault when speaking truth without making any threats, just speaking the truth about Islam. That's what's going to happen if the Virginia bill becomes law. We'll have on Usama Dakdok about that. Now, I did not have my normal Daniel class, Daniel church service Bible study class last night. I gave everybody the night off because some people want to watch the Super Bowl, or in this case, the Olympics. I, Lord willing, will be back this coming Sunday night. We'll pick it up with Daniel chapter 2. We're in Daniel chapter 2 right now. I didn't watch 2 seconds of the Super Bowl. I could care less about the Super Bowl. So I don't even know who won, and I don't care. I did read an article, though, today about the Bad Bunny halftime show. I didn't see it. I don't want to see it, but I read an article about it. And apparently the whole thing was in Espanol.